ITV2 is live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard. After a 9-year absence, Formula One is back in the United States. We have just 3 races to go, just a couple of points separating Häkkinen and today's pole sitter, Michael Schumacher. This Grand Prix could well be absolutely crucial. These are live pictures of the circuit that you're seeing here. A massive crowd, over 200,000. Redesigned circuit has been a sellout for months. You know, you can't get a hotel room anywhere in a 50-mile radius. Indy has gone F1 balmy. And hello there. We are 6 hours behind you here, just after midday. It's officially the start of autumn in Indiana. And how? 25 degrees it was yesterday, a total change in the weather overnight. Temperature struggling to reach 14 or 15 degrees, and we have had plenty of rain here as well. Now then, Tony, can you believe it? Formula One at Indianapolis?
I didn't think it would happen. 91 years of this place. It counted for Formula One championship points between 1950 and 60, but getting your own race here is a chance to stamp a bit of Formula One on North America, a chance to really make it a genuine world championship. And so far, it seems in general, they've really taken to it. And it was just great watching the old majorettes there and the bands going along. It's real Americana with a mixture of these strange European folk who've invaded.
And we've been talking about the rain, Tony. There's a lot of it around. They normally, if it rains here, they go, no race, fellas.
That's right, that's right. And what it means is in past Indy 500s, stopped after 20 laps or whatever, they might race the next day when it's dry and the crowd all have to go home, and if they can't make it on the Monday, then that's tough. But they do not race in rain, so if it's a wet race, and there's a distinct possibility of that, it's history in the making here.
Well, it looks as though it is going to be a wet race, as you can see there, and a wet and a windy one as well. They have spent, you know, over £30 million redesigning Indianapolis in less than a couple of years. Indy, they call it the racing capital of the world because of its rich history. Murray Walker has been looking back.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway was founded in 1909 as a testing ground for the area's growing car industry. The track was originally made out of crushed stone, but accidents in the first race convinced the owners to pave the speedway with 3.2 million bricks, giving it its nickname, the Brickyard. Ray Harroun won the first Indy 500 in 1911 at a speed of just over 74 miles an hour. Since then, the Indy 500 became one of the most prestigious races in the world, with stars of Formula One eager to test their nerve between the walls of the banked oval. Jim Clark and Graham Hill won successive 500 races in 1965 and 66, shocking the Americans by beating them at their own game and in their own brickyard. And since then, names like Stewart, Piquet, Fittipaldi and Mansell have raced with greater or lesser success. Jacques Villeneuve won here in 1995 and is the only Formula One driver to have raced on the old track. But now the rest of Formula One has arrived and some new history is about to be made.
Absolutely a bit of history being made. They're doing their best to clean up the revamped circuit. And as Tony has told you, incredibly, they don't race here when it's wet, and so one or two of the crowd here are going to be very surprised to see cars running at all when it is wet. Big Ferrari support here as well, as you can imagine, with Michael Schumacher on pole 2. As I say, this place has been taken over by the world of Formula One. The Indianapolis Colts are at home tomorrow night. They're playing Jacksonville, and Jacksonville had to stay out of the city. No hotel rooms anywhere to be had. And the US Grand Prix due off in just over 50 minutes' time. Delighted that we're joined in the studio here by Adrian Reynard, sort of an engineering racing legend, I think probably what describes you, doesn't it? 30 years or so in the game. You've won in every formula, very much involved, as we can see now with British American racing. Just give us your thoughts first of all about F1 coming here to Indy.
I think it's a great event. Just looking at the number of people that have poured in today on a rainy day just endorses the fact that it is a very popular sport throughout the world, and it's had some great interest in the USA. I think it's absolutely amazing.
And one or two of the locals have said here, why should we change everything for Formula One? Why should we stand Indy on its head for Formula One? Do you feel that's fair?
I don't think we're standing Indy on its head. I think the Indy 500 and the Brickyard 400 are entities on their own, and this is just another type of racing. It's a different type of sport, different regulations, and perhaps some common but some unique fans as well. So I think it deserves a place here, and it's probably now the biggest spectators in Formula One. It's suddenly just become this massive event.
Your cars won the Indy 500 here twice in the mid-90s when a certain Mr. Jacques Villeneuve was driving for you, wasn't he? What are your memories? We can just see that down here, your memories of that particular day.
Yes, well, it was an amazing thing because, as you probably recall, Jacques was actually 2 laps down, and I was watching the leaderboard from the grandstands, and we just didn't think he'd have a chance. But then he actually fought his way back. I remember on the grid, I'd said to him, look, I guarantee this car will last 500 miles. And he said to me after the race, his biggest worry was that he was going to have to do 505 miles, and he thought the warranty had run out.
How about this time around for BAR? I think that you were lumbered with a rather unfortunate quote that you might have said with your tongue in your cheek when you arrived in F1. You said, we'll win our first race, and everyone has used that quote to hang you, haven't they, really? Yeah,
I don't mind being hung. It's something which I think is quite an important thing to do, is to have that will to win, and I don't change my aspirations now. I never have done. Maybe I thought that I need to believe we could win. That was really what it was. I think it would be foolish to say that you could come up against Ferraris and McLaren's establishment and just go out and win. But I think if you're not here wanting to win, then you don't belong here. We're not a being there type of organisation. Nobody in our company at BAR nor Reynard wants just to be there. We all want to win, and we have our eyes set firmly on the top, and we want to be there at the moment. This year, we're being realistic. We would like to try and be there behind Ferrari and McLaren, and we've qualified there now. And so anywhere short of that, we're disappointed.
You see, one of the accusations about Jacques Villeneuve staying with you, and it's been asked, well, why should he stay with a team that's down the back and has got no chance of winning and being at the front where he deserves to be?
Well, he's a believer. And with Reynard, we always supported ourselves with people that believed in us. And at BAR, we started a team from nothing. 2 years ago, we had 3 or 4 people. Now we've got over 300. And I'd like to say hello to you guys back at the factory, and thanks for all your effort for getting us here. We've got a reliable car, and it's not something you do overnight. You can't build a company from nothing to a fully cultured world beater in a year or so. There's just too much going for it. McLaren and Ferrari are doing too much, too well, too competitively. Their engine suppliers are too good, too powerful, and it's a big challenge, but that's why we're in it. That's why Honda's in it with us, because we like the challenge. We like to beat them. We learn from our mistakes, and we've made plenty last year, I'm afraid. but we're going for it.
I was going to say that. I mean, hindsight is a wonderful thing. You mentioned the mistakes that you. Everybody does make mistakes when they go into a venture like this. But which ones in particular, looking back, would you say, well, perhaps we shouldn't have done that?
I wouldn't admit to any on the air, but we didn't have a very reliable car. Just looking on the technical side, I'm not speaking commercially or business-wise. Our car wasn't as reliable as it ought to have been last year. We had a pretty poor reliability record. Whether it would have made much difference or not, I don't know, because the points system in Formula One, so few people, only the top 6 score points, and we didn't really get that close. This year, if you take out just the chassis, we've had a 92% reliability factor, and if you look at the whole scenario, including driver spins and the odd engine problem, we're about 70%, which isn't bad. McLaren won the championship last year with about 70% reliability factor. Obviously, we're now working with Japanese, and Honda don't like to make any mistakes, so our philosophy is 100% right, and we've got to make it right. But we think we've got everything there to be a real challenge next year.
Okay then, thanks for the moment. Let's just take a spin, shall we, round this Indianapolis Speedway. Even in the rain, they're going to be hitting speeds of over 200 miles an hour and at full throttle for over 20 seconds of each lap. Here is Martin Brundle to chat you around, and at the wheel, it's Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR in the dry.
On board with Villeneuve, pulling 3.5 lateral G through the banking. Even the camera's a little bit upset as it wobbles around. 200 miles an hour over the start-finish line, building to 210. Don't run too close to the wall. There's a cushion of air there that'll slow you down. Now brake very, very late, down to second gear. 70 miles an hour, short squirt on the throttle. Just 60 miles an hour through turn 2, and into turn 3 immediately a sweeping right-hander up to 130 and straight into the entry of 4. Now ignore the exit of the corner, get hard on the throttle, building through 105 miles an hour, and again straight into 6, 75 miles an hour. Villeneuve struggling to get the front end of the car to the apex of the corner, trying to get some camber thrust, and once again a short squirt, 70 miles an hour onto the back straight. 500 metres now, building up to 185 miles an hour. Be on the right-hand side at the end, ready for turn 8, down to 75 miles an hour. Now you're into the Mickey Mouse part. Turn 9, just 50 miles an hour. Doesn't it look and feel and sound pedestrian? Turn 10, 60 miles an hour. Now the most important corner on the circuit, it doesn't look much. Turn 11, 80 miles an hour. But after this, you will not lift the throttle again for about a mile. Sweeping through 12 now, 155 miles an hour. Keep it low initially. Now you can start to climb up the banking. Watch Villeneuve use all of those 9 degrees to try and catapult out. He'll move towards the wall initially and then away once again into that long pit straight. It looks easy enough in the dry. I wonder how it will be if it rains for the race.
Well, I'm not sure if it's going to rain or not, Adrian, but it is going to be very, very wet, isn't it? How do you cope with that? What do the teams feel about that?
Well, we've got probably 20 people working on race strategy now between BAR and Honda. It's a lot of it's expert systems now. We write software for it. We try and look at every eventuality. Weight, tyre degradation, track temperature, who's in front, who's behind, all those things we feed into the equation, fuel consumption. So it's not a simple thing. It's not a case of one man making a decision anymore and making a call, oh, let's come in for some fuel. So there's a lot of expert help we get in making our decisions. And then, of course, it goes and rains at the last minute. So you've got to have the flexibility of being able to readapt the situation. We have a very strange situation today in that in a warm-up this morning, we got to a level where the wet tyres weren't actually going any quicker as it was getting drier. And the dry tyres weren't actually quick enough to go quicker than that. So when you get down to about 124 lap time, the dilemma is, do you leave the car out there doing 124s because it's not going to go any quicker if it's getting dry, or do you come in and put dries on, but knowing that the optimum lap is probably at 117. So there's a bit of no man's land there, which I don't think any software could sort out.
Yeah, is there a bit of you that quite likes it when you see the rain, because it does sort of even the playing field up a bit?
With our situation, this time of year, the reliability is usually better for McLaren, Honda, the guys in front of us. So in a normal race, if they last, we're going to have a hell of a job getting in front of them. So in some ways, something like a random situation or an accident not involving us would help. And it's, as I said, it's very difficult to try and get into those very few 6 points which are there. And 7th is just useless, really.
With your name, British American Racing, do you see yourself as a bit as the home team here today?
Well, I used to live here in 1995. We spent a year here. It's very dear to me, Indianapolis, and love the town, love the atmosphere, and love the fans. So it's nice for me. I think it's nice for Jacques as well. but not much of the British-American team is too American here. We've got a few Americans employed.
Just a final word for you, because I know you've got to get back to the other side of the circuit, on perhaps Jack's emotional approach to coming back to Indy, on his whole feeling about this race.
I think he loves every race. He's highly adaptable. He gives 100% at every situation. What's happened recently, he's come on much better in the wet. I think he feels emotionally strong here, and so far the performance he's given to us engineers and in the pits has been pretty bulletproof and very sure of himself.
Listen, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much.
It's a bit of a hike, and best of luck.
Okay, Tony.
Best of luck in the race this afternoon. Okay then, so as Adrian has said, really racing here for the first time. Big problem finding the right setup for all the teams.
I'm joined by Martin Whitmarsh, Managing Director of the McLaren team. Martin, critical part of the World Championship, new circuit to everybody. How have you prepared as a team for this racetrack?
We've had plans of the circuit now for a few months, so obviously we've been looking at those, we've been putting that into our simulation, we've been playing those simulations, looking at downforce, looking at suspension setup, trying to make sure we understand it before we get here. Once you get here, of course, real world is always different from simulation. So quickly, in the first few laps, we had to try and understand that. The circuit really is divided into two. We've got the high-speed oval part of the circuit where you want low levels of downforce, and we've got the infield where ideally you'd have a lot more downforce, so you've got the grip out of the slow-speed corners.
Yes, the last two corners, plus the long straight, 926 metres. I think the cars are on full throttle over 22 seconds, and you've got a 9-degree banking. Have you had to do a specific setup for this Indianapolis track that you wouldn't perhaps use anywhere else?
We've been obviously looking at the loads on the suspension. They're not that high, in fact. I mean, we're pulling about 3.5 G through that last one, which is very high by anyone's standards, but by comparison to Eau Rouge, it's not that dramatic. The actual setup is really, and the trick this weekend is going to be balancing the requirements of the high speed and the slow speed parts of the circuit. After qualifying, I think we'll see all the teams losing downforce to a much higher extent than we have, really trying to second guess where other teams are going, your closest rivals are going to be in terms of downforce, so you don't get out dragged on the straight.
Of course, that interview was yesterday, and it's a very different Indianapolis today. A lot of rain about. If you're just joining us on ITV2, welcome to you all. You're watching the build-up to the first American Grand Prix for 9 years, and the off will be just over 40 minutes time, and there's a crowd of over 200,000 here at the Speedway. Okay then, Tony, let's have a check back to the qualifying in the dry yesterday. Schumacher, as they call him around here.
Oh, Mike, they call him Mike Schumacher right now.
But he had that qualifying session in the palm of his hand, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think very pleased all the work that they did at Fiorano and Mugello, especially with these new harder Bridgestone tyres, this special carcass they've got. All their simulation seems to have worked. He made some small adjustments during his first qualifying run, but Hakkinen had gotten fastest initially. Then he did this 14.4, which was very, very quick. The car looked stable. He felt good. You know, he says, I've got a heart after all, after all his dramas in Monza.
He sort of psyched them out a bit there, didn't he, Michael? Because everybody dashed out because they thought it was going to rain, and he sat back there and took 5, as they say over here, and then took the session over.
Well, he didn't want to go in the sort of traffic jam on the M25. He hung back a little bit, and even though there were spots of rain, he said, I saw them on my visor, but I just pushed that bit harder. Did that 14.4, again, very impressive.
And then Hakkinen got very, very close to his time, didn't he, to Schumacher's time?
Yeah, I think this was very impressive from Hakkinen and McLaren. They've been struggling a little bit with the setup of the car, and this is because these very, very hard tyres have had to compensate with softer springs as well. And you know when Mika's not happy with the car, he's not putting the time in, but he made a big effort here, and you see how high he was going up on the white line, and then that slingshot down through turn 13. He was quite pleased with that.
One of the unusual aspects of the qualifying session was the teamwork that we saw in it, both Ferrari and McLaren.
I think this is going to figure in the race as well. Almost practicing for the race. Very, very long straight. In the States, it's called drafting. You know, we call it slipstreaming. The car in front makes a hole in the air, and you can get up the speed. And Hakkinen said, I only got 2 laps left. Adrian Newey went over to Coulthard and said, would you like a tow? Well, of course, great gift, thank you. He got that extra bit of speed down the straight and got himself onto the front row of the grid, got himself into second place. Look how close he was there on the wall. Lovely, lovely driving there. And Coulthard enjoys that, but he said you feel like a racing driver going flat, flat, flat through there all the way. And they were very chuffed. There's Lisa Dennis, Ron Dennis's wife. She's happy with the team performance there. Now, but I'm not sure whether Hakkinen wanted to be on the front row of the grid. Did he want to be on the second row of the grid because those line of bricks? Now Schumacher's managed to get the grid moved backwards as well because of the fear of lack of traction at the start.
We'll hear more from James Allen about that in a moment. But do you think there might be a little bit of Hakkinen blowing in Coulthard's ear, saying, well, I helped you in qualifying, but you've got to help me when it matters?
I think it's going to be, as they keep saying, it's a team game. Ron Dennis said, look, there are no team tactics there, but it is in our contract. If we need to radio him through and say, you've got to move, contractually we're allowed to do it. And I think Coulthard is prepared for that if it happens. But equally, Ron Dennis admits that if something happened between Hakkinen and Schumacher, then Coulthard's back in the championship race if he can win it.
Jenson Button is going to be replaced by Juan Pablo Montoya, who's watching and saying nothing to anybody from the Williams garage, and watching a very impressive performance from Button.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's spurring him on that much. It can't be comfortable having the guy that's moving you out of your job for 2 years, but he's been impressive right out of the blocks, Jenson Button, as he was in Spa when he had the third place. 6 here is very good. That upset Ralph a little bit.
Well, he out-qualified Ralph Schumacher, didn't he?
Yeah, but Ralph has been saying, you know, I'd like to keep Button. Of course he doesn't want Montoya coming into the scene and upsetting it all. But when Ralph gets it slightly wrong, it gets to him. He gets frustrated, he gets upset. The car wasn't to his liking. He'd had a few problems. Here's another spin. You know, he ends up down in 10th, and Jenson, you know, in that 6th place. But they're actually good teammates. They work very, very well together.
And I think Luciano Berti from Jaguar's new driver next season, he's going to join us here in a couple of minutes' time. But a pretty dismal old day for those Jaguars in qualifying, wasn't it?
Jaguars, Jim, the Jaguar. Yeah, it's disappointing because Irvine said we squeezed as much out of the car as we could. This was on an in-lap, slight lack of concentration, whatever. It has a little spin coming in. Lack of traction seemingly everywhere, and Johnny Herbert complaining even more than Eddie Irvine. Eddie saying, look, we're working well as a team. So he's been quite diplomatic at the moment, but it's not as good as it should be, and they're under the microscope. Here, the home of Ford.
Right then, 35 minutes to go to the off. Tony, just chat us through the grid.
Well, Schumacher very happy with that pole position, of course, but Coulthard will want to make a really good start there. Will Coulthard be out there as the hare to really push Schumacher as hard as possible? Hakkinen and Barrichello. Barrichello hoping to make a better start. He said, I made a real porridge of it in Monza. Truly says, you know, slipstreaming is going to be very important here. He's chuffed with that. Button 6th place we've talked about. Frensenweller, he's really taken to Indianapolis. He loves the fans and the reaction he's getting from them. Ralf Schumacher there alongside Diniz. Alex Wurz has had a pat on the back from Briatore because he said, you did all your homework, you did very well, but your teammate didn't. He's had a slap. Verstappen in the arrows a bit further back than he wants to be. Lots of understeer for Salo. Fisichella, Briatore said you can't rely just on your talent alone. You didn't do your homework, so he's had a bit of a slapping, as I've said. Irvine back there. Della Rosa, who survived that big, awful crash in Monza. Then Herbert, who's been complaining. Alesi had engine problems with the Peugeot. Only 2 more races to go with that, Jean, don't worry. Mazzacane and Genet at the back.
We got pole position, and that's always a good indication usually for a race as we had in Monza. It's essential that we get the setup right, and we have had a good setup yesterday, so I don't expect particular problems.
Mika didn't have a chance to do another time lap, and I did, so Adrian suggested that he asked me whether it would be beneficial to get a tow, and I of course felt it would be. And I'm appreciative that he did that, but I'm also very happy with the job I did because I had another 13 corners to do after I got the tow.
You could do the similar thing in Hockenheim, but you don't get exactly the same effect. Example in Hockenheim, what you do over here, because that banking is just incredible. It takes a lot of speed away if you don't follow somebody. So it was good help for David, and like we discussed earlier about the starting grid, you know, starting pole position probably is not the best place to start.
It's going to be a very interesting race with this long straight. The slipstream will be very important, and we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting.
I think I pushed a bit too hard. The team always say, just push as hard as you can, and if you go off, you go off. But I think I pushed a bit too hard and got a bit wild, but there you go.
But still very well placed for tomorrow.
I think it's good. I'm very pleased to be in the top 6 again, and you never know, maybe we can get some good points tomorrow. We'll see.
We know we have a quick car. I mean, I'm just 2/10 to be in pole position, and so I'm fairly happy.
The only way, really, realistically, I can win the race is if Mika and Michael have a problem, or certainly if Mika has a problem. Otherwise, if I'm running in front and leading, then I think it's it's normal to expect the team to want to try and maximise this position. So nothing's changed really.
It's always teamwork, you know, that's where it has to be.
Teamwork then, 3 to go. This Grand Prix is looming, then Japan in a fortnight and the climax in Malaysia. Hakkinen odds on to win the title again. Schumacher has that great air of confidence about him throughout the weekend. Coulthard has gone quickest in warm-up though. Barrichello's toe helped his teammate enormously, but poor Fisichella, he's had a verbal whacking from Fabio Briatore and another crash here in practice. In the constructors, McLaren have a 4-point advantage. Williams could well improve their total today. The Jordans are well placed, Trulli 5th, and Frentzen is 7th. Well, beating the promotional drum here, all important in the States. Jaguar and McLaren's David Coulthard have both done their bit in New York en route to Indianapolis. Different teams, but the same message. Formula One is back in the USA.
Can't drive like this. Come on out of the car. Come on out.
You're the only one I'm missing. Please, Michael.
I think I got Schumacher, meine Söhne. Danke.
Ja, viel Glück.
Viel Glück heute.
ITV2 welcomes you back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Just look at that, a fantastic crowd, over 200,000 gathered here. The rain has stopped. The United States Grand Prix, the first one for 9 years at the place they hope will become the permanent American home of Formula One, is due off in just under half an hour's time. And as you can see and as you can hear, the pit lane has been opened. Delighted that we're joined by Luciano Berti. Hi, Luciano, welcome. We saw you drive briefly in Austria when Eddie Irvine was ill, and of course you will be driving with Eddie in Jaguar next season, won't you? Now, how upset are you perhaps not to be involved here, because I'm sure you'd love to be driving here?
Well, it is a little bit boring to be out of the car, but I think it's part of it. I've been learning a lot, not just about driving a Formula One car this year, but because I've been to all the races and most of the tests, I've been learning about Formula One itself, the politics, the press, how to work with the team when I'm not driving. So I think that's going to help me a lot for next year.
We saw just some pictures of you driving in Austria when they came to you very late and said you were going to have to drive, but you were so cool there, you didn't look nervous at all.
It was a last-minute thing, so I knew that would be very difficult anyway. I didn't know the track. So I said, well, if I approach as a normal test, I think I'll be relaxed and I'll drive better. So I had enough pressure already, and if I was putting pressure on myself, it would be even worse. So it was better to keep calm, and it helped in the end.
I guess we've moved a bit closer to your home, a bit closer to Sao Paulo, haven't we, from Britain coming here to Indianapolis. What are your impressions of Indy as an F1 circuit?
I think it was pretty good. It's quite different from the other tracks that I've been before. You can see the whole crowd, and so you can realize how many people are watching the race. Usually in most F1 tracks you can see maybe just one grandstand and that's it. So here we can see all the fans. The paddock is very nice. The track, although there are some corners that are not that fast, it's still quite a nice track. The banking, the last corner is very nice to watch. So I think it's going to be quite interesting, and I'm glad that he came back to America.
Do you think, finally, for the moment, Luciano, that there will be a traditional, a proper start here? Is there any likelihood they might start behind the safety car like they did in Belgium?
I hope they do a normal start. I think, okay, it's wet, the first corner is a little bit slow, so there is a possibility to have an accident. But I think that's part of the game. You know, there is enough room to people to deal with each other. So hopefully they can do a normal start. It would be nice for the American fans to see that, because they are used to the running starts. So hopefully they will let them race and see what happens.
Okay, Luciano, thanks for the moment anyway. The pit lane has been open for, what, just about 5 minutes now. Let's sample the atmosphere down there with our reporter, James Allen. James, it's all yours.
Yeah, it's my favourite time of the Grand Prix weekend. Hello, everybody. The pit lane is now open. The cars have got about 10 minutes now to get onto the start grid. They can come back through the pit lane if they want to, drive back out, but once they go across that line there, they've got to go onto the grid. Very unusual. Look at this. Michael Schumacher still in his car. He hasn't done a single lap yet, hasn't driven out there at all. A lot of discussion going on. I just caught a word with Ross Brawn a moment ago, and he told me that they're expecting a shower sometime during the race. It's not completely dry. There is Ross Brawn, the master tactician. You can see he's thinking quite hard. Coulthard's back in the garage as well, I understand. Normally the McLaren drivers go straight to the grid, whereas Michael likes to come in here, just fiddle with a few things, keep the competition guessing. Now, Jim, it's a total lottery today. It may rain again, but how much wing do you put on the car? You remember in Spa, where Häkkinen made that memorable pass on Michael Schumacher. The reason he was able to do that was because he was on a dry setup and Michael was on a wet setup, so Häkkinen had a better straight line speed. We could see that again today. Complete lottery aspect. My hunch is that this race will be won by the team that's best at thinking on its feet. Draw your own conclusions from that.
Thanks very much indeed, James. Ferrari have been the quick thinkers this season, really. Well, if any of you out there have ever watched Formula One and envied the drivers, watch the next couple of minutes very carefully. Ever wanted to ride an F1 car? Well, now's your chance. We're teaming up with McLaren Mercedes to offer you the thrill of a lifetime, a ride in the back of their two-seater. 2 lucky winners will get a day out at Silverstone and feel the power of a 750 horsepower racing car on one of the fastest tracks of all. And don't worry too much about the chauffeur, we'll provide him too. The car's suitable for most people, but it can reach speeds of up to 200 miles an hour and corner at over 3 Gs, so you'll need to pass a medical and be within the height and weight limits. Also, you need to be 18 or over. And to qualify, you have to answer these 2 very simple questions. When did Mika Häkkinen make his Formula One debut? Was it A, 1991, B, 1992, or C, 1993? A, 91, B, 92, C, 93. Question 2, McLaren hold the record for the most wins in a season, but how many was it? A, 13, B, 14, C, 15. A, 13, B, 14, C, 15. Here's the number to dial, 09065 811 811. 09065 811 811. And don't worry, we'll repeat the questions at the next 2 races in the Far East, and you can find the rules and conditions on these websites. The best of luck to you all. Yes, good luck with that one. Our studio guest, Luciano Berti, will be in one of those next season. It takes us nicely to another Murray Meets, and today Murray Walker's with a man with a very big job in front of him.
It's no secret that Jaguar have had a pretty torrid debut season in Formula One and that some sort of dramatic action was going to be taken. Well, here is the dramatic action. New head man, Bobby Rahal. Bobby, how do you see your task? What do you got to do?
Well, I think, you know, given the season to date, as you mentioned, initially, I'll be attending, you know, the races the rest of this year, but really trying to understand, when you consider the resources that are at work here, you know, the might of Jaguar cars and the commitment of Jaguar and Ford Motor Company, and given the fact that the reputation and prestige and image of Jaguar cars is on the line, you know, first thing is to understand, well, where is the disconnect? Where is the problem? Because by all rights, this should be one of the most successful teams if you just look strictly at the resources and that commitment. So over the next several months, that's obviously job 1 is to find out where the problems lie, and then job 2 is to put into effect the solutions.
Now, let me hit you with the hard one. I mean, you're a top man in American racing. You've won everything there is to win. You've had your own team with enormous success. You have driven in Formula One a long time ago. But inevitably, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, what does an American know about putting Formula One right?
Right. Well, I don't think that, first off, I'm not the engineer. I'm not the designer. Right. I'm not the aerodynamicist. My task is to create the organization, which means that, above all, I have to find the right people for those types of positions. And then, basically, I have to get out of the way. I have to allow them to do their jobs. So I think that those kinds of disciplines, or I think that basic tenets of a company are no different whether you're making, you know, widgets, or whether you're in kart, or whether you're in Formula One, or what have you. You know, discipline, organization, all those things are universal. And so I do believe that if we can instill that kind of organization and discipline and get the right people doing the right things in the right places, then it's irrelevant where I may have been.
Are you going to do this at arm's length from the States?
No, I'm moving to England. I don't think you could do this job from arm's length. When Neil Ressler called me to consider this, naturally, I mean, this is a big task. And I don't think I have any illusions as to the immensity of it. But how many times are you offered the opportunity or the chance to run a Formula One team? And having enjoyed my time in Europe racing as much as I did, I enjoyed living in England many years ago. I just enjoyed the whole scene. Perhaps in some ways I'm fulfilling some of the goals just in a more vicarious way than I did as a driver. I just feel that this is an opportunity for me, that if I can help turn this thing around so it's successful, that for me, my relationship with the sport, and my relationship with Ford Motor Company and Jaguar, and just the sense of self-satisfaction will be tremendous.
You do realise that if you crack it for Britain and for the world with all the emotional appeal that Jaguar has got, that you will at least be Sir Bobby Rahal. Does that appeal to you?
Well, I don't. I'm not looking for that at all, but I appreciate very well what Jaguar, what that name conjures up, you know, in its image and the reputation and what it means to England. And I may be an American, but I have an appreciation for history.
Thanks for talking to us, and every success.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just heard there is no chance of a safety car start. Indy will be treated to a traditional F1 start. Now then, Luciano, what do you make of your new boss there, Mr. Rahal?
I was pretty happy with the decision to take him on board. He was very successful as a race driver, so he has a very good racing background. Also, I know that he's a very successful businessman, so it's a perfect combination for the team. Also, with Neil Rosler, with his experience, I think the pair can do a very good job, so I'm looking forward to it.
Do you think in some way Jenson Button's performances this year have helped you get the drive, because you raced against Jenson in F3?
Definitely. I mean, I was racing with Jason, like I said, last year, so the comparison was a direct comparison. And he has done an awesome job this year, so for sure he helped. I mean, if he had done a bad job, people would be afraid to try a new driver. But they were not afraid because of Jenson. So, of course, he had a good car to do it. You can see Heidfeld, he did struggle because the car wasn't as good. So, hopefully, I can have a good car next year and do a good job as well.
One or two of you are a bit superstitious, aren't you, you drivers? I mean, Wirtz wears a red boot and a blue boot. And what's this about you? You never get into a car from the right side?
Yeah, well, I said that once, but I'm not that superstitious. I just said that if there is something about superstitious, I always get from the right side. But because I'm used to it, you know, it's something that is like maybe when you wake up in the morning and usually you get up just in one side of the bed. It's the same on the race.
So you always get in from the right side?
From the right, and leave from the left.
Okay. Now, just before you go, what about the race today? I mean, I know you're close pals with Rubens Barrichello, aren't you? But what's your overall feeling about how the race might go?
I think it's going to be quite interesting. The start, of course, is going to be crucial. You know, you can see David going for it. He has nothing to lose. And Michael has to be aggressive as well. Rubens is going to be trying his best to do whatever he can from fourth. And Mika, you know, has to go for it. So it's quite nice that everybody has to go for it. They cannot sandbag too much. So it's going to be interesting.
Give us one name from all that group.
I think Michael.
Okay, all right. Hey, listen. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be watching you very closely
Thank you very
next
much.
season. The best of luck. Thanks. Okay, then. It is time for us to go grid walking, and that means Martin Brundle.
Hello, everybody. Hi, all, as they might say out here. Thanks, Jim. Well, I've got to show you this driver's eye view for starters. Look at the incredible grandstands and crowd down there. 250,000 people, they say. And this, we're getting down low, so I can give you exactly the driver's eye view as they head down best part of a third of a mile into that turn one. Look at the double-decker grandstands here. Everything's big in America, not least their grandstands. Now, this was due to be somewhere near the start line, the yard of bricks. I'm sure you've seen it on our programs earlier on in the weekend. But they've displaced all the way back to the second row of grid the start position, some 8 meters. Now, that's caused a bit of a fuss. Some people saying they've done it because Michael Schumacher didn't want to be spinning his wheels over those bricks, disadvantaging him on the start. I talked to Charlie Whiting, the race director. They actually wanted to move it back 4 places, but they need sensors underneath all these for the jump start monitors, and they weren't able to get enough of them in. So they moved the grid back. But look on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can see this over here, Andy. Look, it's damp on the right-hand side of the grid and dry on the left-hand side of the grid. So our 2 boys, Button and Coulthard, are both, unfortunately, on the right-hand side of the grid. So they got a wet start. But it's going to be much worse than that, I think. It's... what's happening there? We're trying to get... Sorry, I'm sorry. I think he didn't know we were live. OK, the problem they've got is, do they run wets or slicks? Apparently, it was super, super slippery on the infield. And even the safety car found it incredibly slippery. But There's an F-14 just coming overboard. I mean, like, just stay with us on the US Air Force, apparently. I hope you can still hear me. We can't even see him. The cloud base is so low. The problem they had this morning is on the wet tyres, they were blistering them within 1 lap around that banking. And because the water drains off there so quickly, but apparently the infield is so slippery that even the safety car found it difficult to drive there. In a Ferrari race that was on earlier on today, they were spinning off left, right and centre, and I really don't think the drivers are going to know what tyres to start the race on. Let's see who we can find on the grid here. I think I saw Bernie's having a chat there, so we got a little present for Bernie that we owe him from the previous race. So, but Sarah, could you have a quick word with ITV? What are you up to here?
Well, I'm a great supporter of Formula One. You might have seen me around a few times, and I've got some. In fact, Ron Dennis's son is my godson, so I like to support that team. Good stuff. So you're hoping for a silver win today, then obviously. Coulthard or Hakkinen? I don't know. I'm happy with a silver win. Happy with this? But it's good. It's good. It's good to be here. The Speedway's done a great job. It's a great track. It's the best track I've been to. Absolutely. Good to see you. We've got to move on. I wanted to catch up with Bernie because he managed to beat our lot. Here he is over here now. Bernard, we got a. How are you? You must be really proud of yourself, like pulling this event together. It does look pretty spectacular,
looks great,
doesn't it?
Quite a good crowd.
Absolutely amazing, yeah?
It's
You're pleased with it?
It's just like a Silverstone club race, isn't it?
It is, I know,
Beautiful.
well, yeah, but Silverstone, is even better.
Stop promoting Silverstone, please.
Well, somebody's got to, listen, we'll fight about that another day. I've got a little prize for you. You won.
It's not a prize, it was an investment I made.
Yeah, but you didn't pay the stake. You didn't, I'm told, you won the lira.
Take the stake
out.
out.
No, but we don't want to give you this. You didn't pay the stake.
Take the stake out.
But you can get home on this. Do you want to take it or not? Sure. That looks a bit dodgy. Now, what about moving this grid back? That's very kind of you. Is that a tip? Tipping's a big thing out here, isn't it?
The stake.
Yeah, okay. What do you think about the race? I mean,
super. It'll be a good race. Whatever happens, it'll be a super race.
You think they'll start on wets or slicks?
They ought to start on slicks, but I think most people are going to start on wets, but I don't know why.
No, I don't either. We've got to go back to the studio. Thanks for talking to us, Bernie. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Martin. Took that money very sharply indeed, didn't he, Bernie? A few facts and figures for you. In the 500 was a race in the F1 Championship between 50 and 60. Indianapolis, the oldest location on the F1 calendar, built back in 1909. 63 days to lay the original brickyard. 360 bricks, and we've been talking about that start-finish line. The last USA Grand Prix was held in Phoenix in '91, and Hakkinen's finished first or second in the last 6 Grand Prix. He has scored points in the last 12. There we are then, the facts and figures for you. We are all set for the first ever United States Formula One Grand Prix at Indianapolis. It is coming right up.
Eddie Jordan, we just spoke to Jarno Trulli. He's so excited. He's applying for an American passport. How are you enjoying it?
Well, I think I've got the American passport. It's an Irish one. I mean, half the people here seem to be from Ireland. It's either Italian or it's Irish, so we've taken over the place. So I can understand why Jarno feels that way.
I saw you looking up at the clouds. Is that going to affect the strategy?
Oh, I think the weather is going to play a big part on today's race. We're predicting rain within about 40-50 minutes of the start, and that will affect them whether or not it's almost dry now. Whether or not the wet tyres will survive until the changeover is very doubtful now, because of the surface here is quite different to what we're used to, and we're not seeing it drying as quickly. So we'll have to wait to see, but it's going to be an interesting strategic race if nothing else.
Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
It's the United States Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A brand new experience for the 200,000 plus crowd. It is very nearly time for those gentlemen to start their engines. Some big tactical decisions to be made. Here's Martin Brundle, and first of all, it's Murray Walker.
Welcome, Formula One race fans, to Indianapolis. And you know, I never thought I'd say that. I feel a bit like a starving man in Harrods Food Hall, and it's great. It's an excellent circuit. The facilities are absolutely stupefying. The crowd is mega enthusiastic. The atmosphere is fabulous. But let us not forget that this is a World Championship event. 2 World Championship leaders on the front row. There he is, Mika Häkkinen, 80 points. Alongside him, Michael Schumacher, 78 points. Mika Häkkinen is on the second row of the grid. David Coulthard up there with Michael Schumacher. And let's not forget that twice this year, Mika Häkkinen has burst through from the second row of the grid to take the lead at the first corner. You heard what Adrian Reynard was saying about tyres. They're going to be absolutely critical here. The circuit is still damp. And this morning, Jacques Villeneuve, who knows this circuit better than most, after all he's won the Indy 500, said half the track is dry, and that's where the banking is, and the rest stays humid and wet the whole time, so dry tyres don't work and wet tyres overheat. It is a big dilemma for them.
Yes, they were blistering left rears in just one lap this morning. I think I would start on slicks, but I haven't had the experience of going through that infield, and I suspect quite a lot of the drivers are going to go wet. There could well be a mixture on the grid, and whatever happens, I believe we're going to see pretty early pit stops for those that do start on wet tyres. It's a question of how far they can go before they have to do that. But with 3G through the banking, this is just a whole different scenario. There's quite a lot of camber even on that pit straight. So that's why it dries so quickly there. We've said it's a circuit of 2 halves in terms of speed and setup through the weekend. But that's also turned out to be the same, exactly the same with the weather conditions, because as you can see, the pit straight there virtually bone dry now. As I was standing down there, it was literally drying in front of your eyes. There's a little bit of heat bursting through now. So I'm just having a look and see what the track temperature is. Just 12 degrees, mind you. Now, we saw yesterday the cut-off point was 1 minute 24 before they had to come in for slick tyres. And it looked the same this morning, excepting it was so damp and cold that the track would not dry out. And Schumi went out on a set of, Michael Schumacher went out on a set of slicks late on and was some 7 or 8 seconds off the pace. So it's very difficult, Murray, for them to choose the correct moment to come in and make that pit stop.
Yeah, track temperature is just about 1 degree cooler than it was this morning. But you know, it's a funny thing to say, but the weather conditions for this race look to me to be absolutely ideal for America. Let's make no bones about it. There's Jarno Trulli on wet weather tyres. Let's make no bones about it. Formula One wants to impress America. America is not used to cars racing in the wet on the ovals. They always stop the race, or they don't start it if it's wet, and understandably so, when you're turning left at 220 miles an hour all the time, and if you break away you're going to be in real trouble. But in Formula One they could be seeing a wet dry race, a great introduction for America.
Well, this enormous crowd has never seen a standing start with regard to this circuit especially, or of course any running in the wet. They don't run here in the rain, they just all go home and come back the next day on the super speedway itself. And looking out of our window here, Murray, I can't see a single car on dry tyres. In the first 10, 12 that I can see, all are carrying wet tyres, as you just saw there on Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. Apparently Johnny Herbert down the field is on slicks, but he can afford to take a risk in that respect because he's back in 19th place on the grid. So those wet tyres are going to take some serious punishment.
Right up to the first corner, the right-hander, turn 1. It's a sharp 90 degree, like Monza, but much further away. And this is where they turn off the super speedway, running in the opposite direction to the Indy 500. Turn 2, now there's a lot. Turn 3 is the right-hander, which keeps going right-handed up into turn 4, and they're doing about 75 miles an hour there. Then they sprint up to about 140 on that little short straight with Michael Schumacher leading. Now they're coming up to the double 90 at turn 6, there it is, and they're taking that at about 70 miles an hour, I guess. Up to the second fastest part of the course now, Hulman Boulevard, named after the great Hulman family that have pushed Indy on so far. Building up to some 185 miles an hour as they turn into turn 8. Parade lap, Schumacher, Coulthard, Hakkinen, Barrichello, Jarno Trulli, Jenson Button, an excellent 6th on the grid, don't forget. Now they're coming up to that bank turn. They will hit it in race conditions at about 155 miles an hour, still accelerating for turn 13, 185 miles an hour. It hasn't been the problem people expected it to be, because all the loadings on the tyres and suspension are equally spread. But they then come out onto the long straight past Tower Terrace, 210 miles an hour before they get up to turn 1. And just look at the crowd there. It's absolutely massive. I've been here for the Indy 500 when there were over 400,000 people. There's about 250,000 here today. By far the biggest Formula One crowd that I've ever seen, even bigger than Hungary the first year that we ever had it. And it's coming up to climax time.
Yes, and it looks right. I wonder if it'd feel like being at a disco with not enough people there. Just 250,000 people in a 400-odd-thousand seater stadium, but it doesn't work out that way. We're using about 2/3 of the actual facility, and it feels just great. But a start here on wet tyres on a dry track. Where do you brake into the first corner on wet tyres and a dry track? So a lot of unknowns for everybody sitting out there, and this is a tough one for young Jenson Button too. This is going to be a very strange first few laps of this Grand Prix, Murray.
73 laps. Michael Schumacher on the right, David Coulthard on the left. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, and the American Grand Prix is go!
Coulthard jumped the start. Coulthard will get a jump start penalty for sure. He was rolling a long time before the lights, so he's in the lead at the moment, but I'm absolutely sure Coulthard jumped the start.
And look at Barrichello attacking Hakkinen, but it's Michael Schumacher, if Martin is right, effectively in the lead. David Coulthard in front at the present moment. Schumacher second, Hakkinen third, Barrichello in 4th position, where he started. Jarno Trulli is still in 5th place. In 6th position, Jenson Button has held his place, but Jacques Villeneuve has come up ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, it looks to me, and the young Canadian who has won here at Indy is making a colossal fight of it as they come into Hulman Boulevard.
And Johnny Herbert on those slick tyres is last, absolutely plumb last, I believe now. So certainly those wets are doing the job in these early stages, but how long will they last?
Yeah, jump start under investigation. David Coulthard is being investigated by the stewards of the meeting. They will be looking at tapes of the start there to decide whether David has jumped it. If he has, as Martin said, of course, he's going to have a penalty.
Yes, I don't think they'll have to look at the tapes very long, unfortunately. Coulthard was definitely rolling as the lights changed, so that is a bit of a false lead for him at the moment, but he's very, very fast through the first part of this lap. Look at the cars moving around on that banking. The tyres squirm under that load. They're there to clear the water, not to lean on a 180-mile-an-hour long corner.
And who is the fastest man on the track as the Jordan there comes out and takes Ralf Schumacher?
Frentzen passes Schumacher, that's for 8th place. Frentzen then whistling up the inside into turn 1. You're going to see a lot of that this afternoon. They're carrying a lot of wind, but they can follow through those last 2 fast corners and get a tremendous slipstream on their way down to turn 1. 926 metres is the first pit straight.
And who has got the wing loadings and the tyre fuel combinations right? We've got a long way to see. We're on lap 2. David Coulthard still in front. Is he going to be penalised? Michael Schumacher is second. Look at now. Watch Coulthard on the left there, getting away early. Schumacher tucks in behind him. Mika Hakkinen remains second, and Rubens Barrichello 4th. But it may well be that Barrichello is effectively coming up to 3rd position. There we are. There is confirmation. It looks absolutely without doubt to me that David Coulthard and both Jenson Button and Jarno Trulli have been off on the grass as we look again at the start. And we're on lap 2. David Coulthard is 1.2 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher at the present moment. Mika Häkkinen in 3rd position. As you look down at turn 1, the McLaren leading the Ferrari, the Scotsman leading the German. There is the Scotsman, David Coulthard, 2 times a pole position holder this year, 3rd in the World Championship at the present moment, 19 points behind, and into the pits comes Jenson Button from... He started in 6th position. Now, is this a tyre change? Yes, indeed it is. And right behind him is Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Yes, a puncture there, so that's Trulli in with a left rear puncture. I wonder if Button had a problem. Button has now left the pit, so it may be tactical from Jenson Button. We think he went off the road. Maybe he's decided to come in for slicks. We haven't seen it on screen, but Button did go off the road. Now, whether he's collected a lot of grass in the radiator ducting, I don't know. And whether they put slicks on, I'm sure we'll find out very shortly.
So here are the top 10. David Coulthard now 1.7 seconds ahead of the battle between Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen, the 2 championship leaders, with Rubens Barrichello there in 4th position. Look back for Jacques Villeneuve, who is in 5th position now. He's fought his way up ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Ralf Schumacher is 7th, Zonta is 8th. Then it's Deniz and Jos Verstappen in the arrows, 10th. Excellent.
Yes, I think Fisichella may have jumped the start as well. Now looking up, we've got car 2 and 11 under investigation by the stewards at this early stage. Coulthard extremely eager to get away. And, well, when I thought I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but when they showed it in slow-mo, very clear, Coulthard was rolling when the lights changed.
Martin, why on earth haven't we had a decision already? You've seen the tapes, I've seen the tapes, the stewards can see the tapes. Why haven't they said something?
They've got 20 minutes to notify the team, and the team then have 3 laps maximum before they must pull the driver in. So they'll have to, Coulthard needs to get as far out front, they need to leave it as long as they can before they bring him in so that he doesn't have too much of a penalty. Remember, in Canada, when Coulthard's car stalled on the line and he got a stop-and-go penalty there, it cost him very, very dearly, and it'll be just the same this afternoon, despite that 1.7 second lead he's got at the moment.
Well, Michael Schumacher is lapping within a few hundredths of a second at the same speed as David Coulthard. He will, of course, almost certainly have been told by Ross Brawn, his team chief on the pit lane, that David Coulthard is under investigation. Schumacher will be keeping in touch with David Coulthard, hoping, no doubt, that he is going to be pulled in and that Schumacher will be able to take the lead. Mika Häkkinen is now nearly 2 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, and you can see that Schumacher is closing inexorably on the leading McLaren of David Coulthard, with Barrichello now 4 seconds behind the race leader. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is the man to watch at the present moment. He's in 6th position, but he's closing on Jacques Villeneuve, who is 5th, looking back down Hulman Boulevard, which is absolutely clear at the present moment.
Lacey in the pits. Now, he's always one of the first. Look, Schumacher getting very, very close to Coulthard. As I said, Coulthard blistering rear tyres very early this morning. Lacey is often the first to be brave to come in for a set of slicks. He's the best on a damp track.
Go! Michael's going. Sorry, Martin, on you go.
No worries. Michael there having a look. He looked close enough, but I think the camera angle there was a bit deceiving us. But Michael clearly with the faster car underneath him, and Coulthard's job really, with his, I'm sure he knows he's going to get a stop go as well, is to keep Michael behind him as long as he can and give Häkkinen the chance to get in the hunt. So Coulthard's best thing he can do for the team now is let Häkkinen come into the hunt.
Yeah, this is lap 5, and when are the stewards going to say whatever they're going to say to Ron Dennis, boss of McLaren? David Coulthard watching his mirrors, putting himself in a position where he's going to make it very difficult for Michael Schumacher to get through, but Schumacher attacks. He's going to try and go around the outside at turn 1. He apparently doesn't know that David Coulthard is under investigation, and look at the way that the German is fighting, sawing left, sawing right, almost cutting the gearbox of David Coulthard's McLaren in half as they go into the right-hander at turn 4.
For sure, all 3 drivers at the front there will know of Coulthard's predicament. There is no They have not declared. He did manage to stop the car completely, but he was rolling before the lights. So they'll take a view on that. They've got a graph that'll be printed up on a computer of exactly. And look, Häkkinen getting a run up the inside there of Schumacher.
I must say that David Coulthard is doing a masterly job, irrespective of what he thinks his future is going to be, because he's making it mighty difficult for Michael Schumacher. I do believe that if Schumacher could get past him, he could get away from him, but he can't get past him, and now he's got a big worry. He's got to A, try to get past Coulthard, B, stop Häkkinen from getting past him. You're looking at the first, second and third. There is 1.2 seconds, and the Ferrari pits are getting ready to bring somebody in. Is it Michael Schumacher? I guess it's more likely to be Schumacher than Barrichello, because Barrichello is all by himself, but it may well be the Brazilian.
Barrichello is in the pits. He's out of that picture. Look, he should be in the back of that shot we just saw. So Barrichello will be coming into the pit lane. And look at the toe that Michael Schumacher's got this side. Yeah. Coulthard goes to cover the line. Schumacher goes down the outside, and they just about touch. And once again, oh, they're so close.
Yes! Fantastic, and the crowd has gone berserk. They might well be Italians rather than Americans. They appreciated that. They love to see a fight, and my gosh, they got one. Now, I bet Coulthard will move over and let Häkkinen through. Yes, that's exactly what he's done. He's done his job as best he could, knowing that he's under investigation. He's held Schumacher up as long as he has, that could. The German has fought past him brilliantly. Häkkinen has taken over the attack now, and I'm expecting Coulthard, if the stewards say thumbs down, to be in shortly.
Yes, it was very, very brave by Michael Schumacher, and I have to say, Coulthard making life as difficult as he could, and then played it fair. It would have been awful if Coulthard had bumped Schumacher out of there. It would not be the correct thing to do. That's not the sort of thing David would do. But he sure is going to make it as hard as he can. And Schumacher putting an enormous amount of faith in David Coulthard there with his championship chances. Incredible. Look at this. Squeezes Coulthard across the curve. They must have touched. That was so close.
Oh, now listen, the fastest man on the track at the moment is Johnny Herbert, down in 16th position in the Jaguar. He must have changed tyres. Indeed, he has changed tyres. No, he started on the dries. Remember, the conditions are getting right, and there's hot news from James Allen.
Mika Häkkinen is in the pits, as you can see, going to the slicks. All that excitement with the pass of Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello put the slick tyres on when he made that stop. Now look at Jenson Button's times. He's 4 seconds alone faster in the first sector on the slick tyres. Michael Schumacher is going to have to make this switch very, very soon as well. It could be the opposite of what happened in Spa. McLaren reacting first to put their man on the slick tyres. Michael's got to get in very soon to make that switch too.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert is laughing. He started on dries. Remember, he's 44 seconds behind the leaders, but he'll make up a lot of time. He's not going to have to come in.
Yes, it costs you about 38 seconds in total to stop here. Car 2 has a 10-second stop and go penalty. And the real pain for Coulthard is he cannot change tyres, and Fisichella too. So Coulthard and Fisichella both with 10-second stop and goes, and they cannot change tyres when they're in the pits. They have to go round again.
So now we're on lap 8 out of 73 with Michael Schumacher 2 points behind Mika Häkkinen in the World Championship with 2 races to go after this. Just going through the puddles there as he goes into the banking.
He didn't go in the pits. I'm absolutely gobsmacked at that. He did not go in the pits. I really think that could be a tactical error there. So Coulthard is in the pit lane for his stop and go. I'm amazed. Mind you, it's a 23.8 from Michael. So he's actually, no, maybe he's right. He's still faster than the other guys who have already moved on to slick tyres.
Yeah, 1:24 has been the critical time for changing tyres. 1 minute 24 seconds. Here is David Coulthard taking his 10-second penalty. He came in from the top 3, and this is why he got it.
Yes, he's on the right side. He rolled initially, he reacted too fast, then tried to stop it and go again. Sometimes you can get away with that, but that was just a few metres too far there for Coulthard. He rejoins the track, but still on wet tyres. But Michael Schumacher doing a sterling job up at the front, and I can even see the outside of his left rear is blistered quite badly. Look at the dark area there, the shaded area on the extreme left of his left rear tyre. James.
The lesson we learned though, Martin, at Hockenheim is you can actually drive these wet tyres, the soft wet tyres, quite hard, let them blister. It doesn't actually affect the performance that much for a little while. I think what Michael and Ferrari are trying to do now is build themselves a big enough cushion that they can get back out in front of Coulthard and Häkkinen, obviously, who are currently 31.6 seconds behind them on the road. Bear in mind what Ross Brawn said to me at the start, though. There's a possibility of showers again, and I'm seeing a few spots of rain begin to fall, so it's very much finely balanced, this.
Well, Michael Schumacher's just gone round in 1:23.7. Remember that magic figure, 1:24. And I must say this, while it's still relevant, in fourth position at the moment is the pride of Argentina, Gaston Mazzacane in the Minardi. He has not come in. Diniz has not come in. He is third in the Sauber. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is second, 13 seconds. And you're looking at Frentzen now behind Michael Schumacher. We're on lap 10 out of 73. And there is Pedro Diniz, third place, 5.5 seconds behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Schumacher, Frentzen, Diniz, Mazzacane, Häkkinen, who's been in, Coulthard back in.
Coulthard in for slicks, but I have to say, I was completely wrong. Michael Schumacher's got it aced, and he is still the fastest man on the track on wet tyres. Now, he was some 4 seconds faster than Häkkinen, who is on slicks, so Michael spotted it. The wets are not that bad after all. Certainly the way they're working on that Ferrari.
This is Ayrton Senna in reverse. Senna's brilliance was that he could stay out in the wet on dry weather tyres longer than anybody else and put up comparable lap times and go on and win the race. Well, Michael Schumacher, you've heard the situation now, and you look at Pedro Diniz on lap 11. Now, after Johnny Herbert, who I last spoke to you was in 18th position, he's now up into 10th place in the Jaguar as a result of starting the race on dry tyres, fighting at the start when the surface was damp, and benefiting as it dries out. He's in 10th place.
Yes, it's not going to work for Johnny, though. He's 52 seconds behind the leader, and it's a 35, 38 second stop, so Johnny lost a little bit too much in the early stages. Michael Schumacher now 1.5 seconds a lap faster than Frentzen in second place. Michael going faster and faster each lap, despite the track drying out. There's Barrichello, he's down in 7th place, and still he's 4 seconds slower than Michael Schumacher. So Michael's really got it spotted. Wets are still the answer.
Yeah, but look at this battle. 6th is Villeneuve, 7th it was Barrichello, because Schumacher in the Williams BMW passes the Ferrari at turn 1 and sets about the BAR with its Honda engine in front of him.
That's a key move there for Ralf Schumacher, because he has already stopped for slicks. So Ralf Schumacher nicely making his way through on the dry tyres.
Lap 11. And Barrichello, there he is, he's been in, and it's not a good race for the Brazilian at the present moment, starting 4th on the grid. Now you can see from the matte colour of the tarmac there, which is glistening most of the way on the twisted bit of the infield, that it's still very damp there. And Villeneuve, who you were just looking at as now we join Mika Häkkinen, was saying that it's very, very slippery indeed on the infield. Now watch Mika Häkkinen as he comes up to Gaston Mazzacane in the Minardi, who is in 4th position. He's not been in, and of course Häkkinen has.
Yes,
Häkkinen on the dry tyres.
We know that Herbert definitely started on dry tyres. I don't know about Mazzacane. Maybe we can have a look. They look like wet tyres to me. They look fairly nasty blisters, but Michael Schumacher still in the 1:23s as we go for a short break. That's 2 consecutive laps. He's followed Mazzacane and can't seem to do anything about him. As Trulli goes straight on. What you saw as we came back from the break was Trulli sitting in the pits after a disastrous stop. It seemed as if the Jordan team brought out the wrong tyres, and he's out of the race anyway. But he sat there for ages and ages, and they had to change the tyres. It looked like they were putting wets on, and they should have had a set of slicks. So finally then Button, and look, Mika Hakkinen waving his arm. Maybe Mika doesn't realise, I mean, it's the first time ever he's racing that Minardi for position.
Yeah, it's the 7th retirement for Trulli this year, and Mazzacane is in 3rd place, he's in a podium position. He's not going to give up, he should do, of course. Now, where are the blue flags, and why doesn't he watch them?
No, there are no blue flags, Murray. He's in 3rd, he should not have a blue flag. As I said, Mazzacane's not used to having a McLaren behind him without seeing a sea of blue flags. He is racing for position. He is totally entitled to hold Hakkinen up as long as he can, as now Frentzen comes in from 2nd place for his slicks. Mazzacane was definitely on wets. I had a look in that last shot, and Hakkinen is now completing his 3rd lap behind the Minardi.
And the Jaguars are continuing to go well. Eddie Irvine, Marc Genet has just gone fastest in the 1st sector, and he's in the Minardi. Ralf Schumacher, the quickest man on the track. Now, listen to this. Michael Schumacher leads Frentzen by 43 seconds at the present moment. Schumacher is the only man of importance up the top not to have come in yet. Frentzen is 43 seconds behind him. Mika Hakkinen is now officially in 3rd position. I'm waiting to see the shot. Where is Mazzacane? But Ralf Schumacher is the fastest of the lot. And there is Jenson Button. Look at his flat-spotted right front tyre. And he's out of the race.
Yeah, I think Jenson's locked up big time somewhere, been off the road by the looks of it. This is at the end of the pit lane, so where on earth has Jenson come from? How did he get there? Where did he lock up his tyres? We'll see a replay, hopefully. And look, a few spits of rain on the helicam there. That doesn't necessarily mean to say there's much falling on the racetrack. You do get a false impression from those cameras. And there you're watching Barrichello, who is down in 9th place and not going at all well on those slicks since he changed over. Michael Schumacher still going faster and faster on his wets. Ferrari are ready, and we think it must be for Michael Schumacher this time round.
Yeah, but watch Johnny Herbert behind Rubens Barrichello. Johnny Herbert very much in the top 10. Here they come. There's the BAR of Jacques Villeneuve, followed by Barrichello, followed by Johnny Herbert. Over the line they go. Ralf Schumacher is up into 3rd place in the Williams BMW. He is really flying. He's just done a 1:20.8.
Yes, that's 2.5 seconds.
Oh, look at Herbert.
Yeah, Johnny's now gone past Barrichello. Barrichello nowhere on this slippery track. Michael has to come into the pits now. He's now starting to lose 1 to 2 seconds, and we understand that the Ferrari is in the pit lane. Yes, he is now, James.
43-second lead over Hakkinen. He will rejoin in the lead. Amazingly, Martin, he's putting new tyres on the right-hand side of the car and old ones, used ones on the left-hand side of the car. Watch how long the fuel nozzle is on for. That'll tell you how much fuel they're putting in at 12 litres per second. Quite a bit of fuel. So quite a bit of fuel for Michael, so that will push him quite deep, 7 seconds, push him quite deep into the race before he makes the major stop. But what they learned here was what Button did in Germany. He went long on the wet tyres. They didn't blister, or rather they blistered, but it didn't matter on the pace. That's what Ferrari learned from that, and they've used it today. McLaren have not used that lesson.
Great thinking again. Out of the pit lane comes Michael Schumacher. He was leading by 43 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen when he came in. Mika Hakkinen is now really getting a spurt on. He's 16 seconds behind Michael Schumacher after they have both stopped. Ralf Schumacher is only 3 seconds behind Hakkinen and lapping faster than the McLaren in 3rd place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th position. Remember, he's made his pit stop. Pedro Diniz still in an excellent in 5th place in the Sauber. Jos Verstappen, the Dutchman in the arrows, is 6th. And Ralf Schumacher is keeping up this blistering pace. He's gone faster again. He's closing the gap on Mika Hakkinen. Hopefully there they are in shot. Hakkinen on the left has just gone past Fisichella, who's in 20th place, and Ralf Schumacher will be vying to do the same thing.
after his 10-second stop and go, and then having to come in next time around for slicks. Coulthard down in 14th place. So the only man not to visit the pit lane so far as we're into lap 17 is Johnny Herbert, 8th place man, the only man we think that was brave enough to start on the wet tyres.
Jacques Villeneuve there fighting with Barrichello. Only one Ferrari in the top 6, only one McLaren in the top 6-point scoring position. Villeneuve fighting Barrichello, and behind Barrichello is Pedro de la Rosa. The arrows are 6th and 10th.
New fastest lap for Ralf Schumacher, still flying a 1:19.0. I'm sure it'll come up on the screen. Johnny Herbert has now passed Villeneuve and homing in on Verstappen and Denit. Johnny needing to impress the American racing scene. He wants to drive in IndyCar, and there goes Johnny past Denit, and that is for 6th place. No, he doesn't quite make it stick, and don't turn in on his nose, Pedro, and Johnny lives for another day. But that's for 6th place they're squabbling. Johnny having a great race.
Yeah, the man from Romford, Johnny Herbert, who so badly smashed his feet in 1988 in that dreadful Formula 3000 race at Brands Hatch. He's never walked the same since, but he drives magnificently, and as you can see, he's attacking to get the Jaguar up into the points by getting past Pedro Diniz. But ahead of both of them is Jos Verstappen, and here is Herbert ducking and diving behind the Sauber. Pedro Diniz very sensibly keeping to the and off goes. There, Johnny Herbert goes off.
No, Diniz
Sorry,
went off.
Diniz
Johnny
goes off, yeah.
So
Diniz goes off. Barrichello's now attacking him.
Diniz comes back on in front of fellow countryman Rubens Barrichello, or Ruby as they call him over here on the American commentary. I'm sure he'd be pleased with that one, but he certainly won't be pleased with this race. But Diniz locking the inside as he turned into turn 10 there and sailing straight onto the grass where there's even less grip. Johnny says thank you very much.
Now, we didn't see whether Barrichello got past him, but it means that Johnny Herbert is up.
There it is now. That's Barrichello getting a good slipstream of Diniz, and he should have the line into the first corner. He goes back for a second helping of tow and catapults past Diniz. That was smart thinking there by Rubens. Pulled out of the slipstream, hit a brick wall of aerodynamic drag, ducked back in again and launched one up the inside. Nice move there, Rubens.
Haven't seen much of what's happening at the front here. Is the answer, Michael Schumacher, lap 19 out of 73. Mika Häkkinen is going quicker at the present moment. He's 9.7 seconds behind the Ferrari and closing. Ralf Schumacher is third. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is fourth. Jos Verstappen is fifth. You've seen Johnny Herbert attacking, and off goes Mika Salo in the Sauber. He's had a very rotten time in practicing. He was 16th, he's out of the race.
Hey, look at this. Mika Häkkinen is already 1.3 seconds up on Michael Schumacher this time around. Schumacher is not quick at this stage of the race. Häkkinen is the man on the move, and the lead is now down to 8.1 seconds as you see Salo moving off, and he put too much power in. He could have got out of there, but he spun the wheels too much, so he should have driven away so gently, and he missed his chance there, Mika, of just clambering out of that gravel trap. Yeah. Let's take a short break.
turning out to be a great USA Grand Prix. We're on lap 22 out of 73. And Michael Schumacher has got the message that Mika Häkkinen, after the pit stops, was catching him. He's just put in the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 17.581, 4/10 of a second faster than Mika Häkkinen. He now leads the Finn in the McLaren by 7.5 seconds. Ralf Schumacher continues to hold a brilliant third place in the Williams BMW ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And there is the German. His teammate Jarno Trulli has long since retired. Fifth place is Jos Verstappen in the Arrows. The Arrows is going superbly here. But look, watch this. That is Johnny Herbert, who's come up from 19th on the grid to 6th in the race in the Jaguar.
Yes, he's been about 3/4 of a second faster than Verstappen in the previous 3 or 4 laps as he's been catching up. Johnny with a very, very good Jaguar underneath him at the moment, and he seems to also have good straight line speed. But so traditionally does that Arrows. The Arrows has been one of the fastest cars in the straight all weekend. So once again, in fact, it is the fastest in a couple of speed traps around here. So Johnny's got his work cut out. He's going to have to be brave on the braking into one to get up the inside of Verstappen. And Häkkinen responding to Michael Schumacher's new pace and brings the gap down to just 6.3 seconds. Louise, what can you tell us?
I'm standing here with Jenson Button. Jenson, that was a rather short but fraught Grand Prix for you.
Yeah, definitely. The second or third lap, I think, I went down the inside of Jarno again, but he seemed to move across when I was alongside him, and then we hit wheels. Then I got a puncture, so the team made a good decision to try slicks, and I think it was working. The way it was, how fast I was catching the people in front, and then I don't know what happened. I was alongside Barrichello, and it was like I hit something, like I went across the finish line, like I hit the bricks or something, and then the engine just died, and that was it. Game over.
Thanks, Jenson.
And Johnny Herbert there is attacking Jos Verstappen for that 5th place. Now there is Jacques Villeneuve in 7th place and Rubens Barrichello just behind him in the Ferrari. And Mika Häkkinen continues to close on Michael Schumacher. Up front, 5.5 seconds now between the Ferrari in the lead and the McLaren in 2nd place. Ralf Schumacher is on his own, as is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But Jos Verstappen in the Arrows has got Johnny Herbert right behind him. 7th is Jacques Villeneuve. There is the Canadian, the Indy 500 winner from the past. And he's got Rubens Barrichello falling back a bit in the Ferrari.
Another 0.8 of a second out of the lead by Häkkinen, down to 5.5 now behind Michael Schumacher. Häkkinen is in a Schumacher sandwich. He's 5.5 behind Michael, or Mike as they call him out here, and 5.1 ahead of Ralf Schumacher. But Mika is the man on the move, and he's already 0.4 of a second up on this man Michael Schumacher in the first section of this lap. So it's really, they're just yo-yoing around. Michael attacks and then Häkkinen counter-attacks. Good stuff.
Here's Michael. Now, what's happening behind Rubens Barrichello? 8th place, 9th is Diniz, 10th is De La Rosa. Both Arrows in the top 10. Eddie Irvine 11th in the 2nd Jaguar. David Coulthard 1.1 seconds behind Irvine in the McLaren. Ricardo Zonta is 13th. Then Marc Genet, Jean Alesi, Nick Heidfeld in the Prost, Alexander Wurz in the Benetton. Mazzacane is 18th. Fisichella has been lapped 19th, out of the race. Mika Salo in the Sauber, Jenson Button that you've just heard from in the Williams, and Jarno Trulli in the Jordan. There is race leader. Now you can see the gap between the red Ferrari on the right and the silver McLaren on the left as they go into the infield. It just inside the golf course here at Indianapolis. Believe it or not, the whole Grand Prix circuit is inside the Indy Super Speedway, as is the golf course. And amazingly, the Grand Prix circuit at 2.6 miles long is actually a whisker longer than the Super Speedway. Now, they're up to this complex of turns 8, 9 and 10, which is the only mild criticism I've heard of the circuit. It does disturb the rhythm, but if this race goes well, and it's a fabulous race and America likes it, I think they're going to make alterations to the track, make it longer and probably cut out those twisty bits.
Häkkinen 7/10 up in the mid-sector of this lap, so the gap is going to be well under 5 seconds. The start-finish line is quite a long way down this straight. 16.6 for Michael, 15.7 for Häkkinen. The gap is down to 4.1 seconds. Hakkinen is sustaining this charge. James, what can you tell us?
Michael Schumacher at that stop, the hose was on for 6.4 seconds. He took 25 laps with the fuel on board, so I reckon he's fueled to about lap 50-something. But I think Hakkinen has got less fuel on board, possibly about 15 or 20 kilos less. That's about 4 or 5 laps. So what Hakkinen has to do in this phase of the race before he makes his stop is get on terms with Michael Schumacher and hopefully get in front of him. It's the only way he's going to be able to win it.
Thanks for that, James. We're looking at Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows, with Johnny Herbert in 6th place, right behind him. They're coming up to a slower car. I think it's Fisichella in the Benetton, and it may well be that if Verstappen gets his timing wrong to get past the Benetton, Johnny Herbert will see his opportunity to move up from one. Oh, and who is there? Is Mika Hakkinen with his car on fire. Mika Hakkinen with the McLaren on fire. Yes, he's going to have to come in, no doubt about that. Oh, this is tragic luck for the McLaren team and Mika Hakkinen. And if Michael Schumacher can stay out there, it is going to put him in a commanding lead for the World Championship. Oh, Mika Hakkinen crawls in. Schumacher pulling away, of course, all the time. Ralf Schumacher goes up into 2nd place as I talk to you, and as Mika Hakkinen comes in undoubtedly on lap 27 to retire from the USA Grand Prix. And that is only his 3rd retirement of the year. Out in Australia, out in Brazil, and it couldn't have happened at a worse place here.
Yes, I think that's the first time we've seen a McLaren fail, probably in 22 starts, something like that, or 24 starts between the pair of them. Such an unusual sight these days. Both the front runners have had great reliability, Ferrari and McLaren. McLaren probably even better. And look, it's really, there must be a hydraulic or oil line that's come adrift in there. And
bit of a fire marshal wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, exactly. And the mechanics are down there. Hakkinen made it just into the beginning of the pit lane. Sensible to stop it early. You don't want to go in where you know there are 22 fuel rigs sitting. So Hakkinen stops it early, and that is a huge dent in his chances of a 3rd World Championship.
Well, let's just consider the situation. Mika Hakkinen was 2 points ahead of Michael Schumacher in the World Championship. If capital I, capital F. If Michael Schumacher wins this race, he will get 10 World Championship points, which would put him 8 points ahead of Mika Hakkinen with 2 races to go. Japan in 2 weeks, Malaysia in 4 weeks. The German is certainly looking good, but we're on lap 28. It's a 73-lap race. Anything could happen.
Yes, it's such a shame for you, the viewers, and the 250,000 people here, because that was shaping up to be a great squabble there between the 2 finest drivers in Formula 1 at the moment. Now we've got 3 Germans in the top 3. Looks like a good day for Germany at the moment. Not a great day for the British mob, although where's Herbert gone? Herbert has fallen down to 13th. He's in the pits as we talk. That's obviously for his first scheduled stop of the afternoon, and a major drama there. They're changing the front wing. So are they... And it doesn't look damaged in any way. That's going to cost Johnny 20-30 seconds. There goes his World Championship points almost certainly. What a shame. I don't know what was the problem with it. Hakkinen there, back into the pits, looking at his car and reflecting on what may have been there. Shame for Herbert. He's dropped out of the picture. So top Brit at the moment is Irvine in 9th, and Coulthard chasing him, level with him as they went over the start line. 0.0 between them, off out of our view, but Coulthard in 10th.
And no doubt the calm, imperturbable Ross Brawn, the Ferrari master tactician and technical chief on the pit lane, will have said to Michael Schumacher, Michael, Mika is out of the race. Now, just take things easy. Don't get riled, but Michael Schumacher won't do that. Now, at the present moment, we've got the prospect of the most successful brothers combination in the history of Formula 1. And unless I'm very much mistaken, it's the 9th brothers pairing, finishing 1st and 2nd, because there is Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW. He is in 2nd place, 12.5 seconds behind brother Michael, and 16 seconds ahead of fellow German Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So Ferrari leads, Williams BMW 2nd, and the highest place that they have had this season is a 3rd place, 3 of them. for Ralf Schumacher, and 4th Verstappen, 5th Villeneuve, 6th Rubens Barrichello. We're going to leave Indianapolis. Join us for the rest of the race later.
Mika Häkkinen, very, very bad luck there. Did you have any warning that the engine was going to blow?
No. It did not give me any warning, so I don't know, understand what went wrong, but it was pretty shame. But, you know, the races get a bit short at the moment, and we have to finish the race to fight the championship, and today we did not, so doesn't help us.
I'm sure it's very disappointing, but you must have thought those last few laps, you think you were going to catch Michael? You think you'd have won if you'd lasted?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks a lot.
In the top 10, but a terrific battle between Verstappen, Villeneuve and Barrichello. Only about 6 seconds covering the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th places, which at the present moment Jos Verstappen in the Arrows has got. And the highest position that we've had for an Arrows this year is Jos Verstappen's 4th place in Italy. The last race at Monza, they're doing really well.
Yes, so 7.5 seconds look from 6th through to 9th. Coulthard too slow out of the turn 11 to be able to get a run at the Arrows, which is very, very fast in a straight line. So his rise up through the field after that stop-go penalty for jumping the star has really come to a bit of a grinding halt now. He cleared 5 of them, but now it looks significantly harder as he comes up against a car that has decent grip and a lot of straight line speed. Denit's driving well just ahead of them. He's in 7th. Barrichello just down the road by a second and a bit.
Yeah, so watch Deniz, the Arrows and David Coulthard while I tell you about the Constructors' Championship. Mika Häkkinen there out of the race, no points, and David Coulthard is out of the points. Both the Ferraris are in the top 6, 10 potential points for Michael Schumacher, 1 potential point for Rubens Barrichello, 11 altogether. And Ferrari started this race 4 points behind McLaren, so they could end this race 7 points ahead if things stay as they are.
Coulthard much better out of 11 that time, Murray, look, and much closer too. I think De La Rosa slightly put off his stride by Diniz, but can Coulthard pick up enough of a toe? Doesn't look like it, does it? He's clearly going to be faster down there in the slipstream, and De La Rosa feinting a look up the inside of 7th place man Diniz. Well, DC has not got enough straight line speed.
2 great scraps on the course, you're looking at one of them. Verstappen, Villeneuve and Barrichello for 4th, and here is Deniz, De La Rosa and Coulthard fighting for 7th position, held by the Brazilian in the Sauber at the present moment. And it's even Steven as far as lap times are concerned, as Michael Schumacher goes into turn 1 at the end of that 210-mile-an-hour straight on his 34th lap out of 73, leading Ralf Schumacher, his brother, by 14.5 seconds.
Yes, Michael's stretching it out now. That was his fastest lap of the race so far, the previous lap. Now beginning to pull away from Ralf. Ralf looks like he's been on a rally, doesn't he? I think there must have been quite a few cars off on that first lap, dragging mud back onto the racetrack, and the aerodynamics just trail it down the side of the car. Several of the cars out there looking a little bit scruffy, and we're not even at halfway point yet.
I'm mighty impressed, Martin, by the arrows. Jos Verstappen in 4th place, De La Rosa in 8th position. They've got the excellent Supertech engine. It's a very slippery motor car, thanks to Egbal Hamady and Mike Coughlin's design work on it. And they've a very small budget compared with the teams ahead of them. And Ralf Schumacher tiptoeing round the corner there.
Yes, you saw in the background the Jaguar, I believe that was of Johnny Herbert, remembering he was absolutely flying. That nose change he had to have, I just couldn't see a reason why, but there must have been one, has put him down to 17th and last but one, unfortunately. So sterling effort from Johnny Herbert in the early part of the race. The only man who started this race on slick tyres, got up into 6th place, was flying still, but unfortunately now down in 17th.
Well, we're getting towards a half distance. Half distance is about 35, 36 laps. We're on lap 35 at the present moment, and Michael Schumacher just must be praying for reliability, because he's got a comfortable 15-second cushion between himself and his brother. He's 33 seconds ahead of Frentzen, who is in 3rd place. Everybody has been in at least once. Fisichella's been in twice. Mika Häkkinen, of course, has been in twice. The second visit was to retire. Jarno Trulli made a couple of stops before he retired. Retirements in the order that they left the race. Jarno Trulli was out first, then Jenson Button. Mika Salo retired, the Sauber, and the most important retirement from the point of view of the World Championship, Mika Häkkinen, and he is well and truly out of the race. No points at the present moment for McLaren, because David Coulthard is down in 9th place.
Yes, well, and that was Fisichella spinning off. He's already had a stop-and-go penalty, so he's not in the action. There he is trying to correct it. But Johnny Herbert did, in fact, have a damage right-hand front corner of his wing. That's why they changed it. And we believe also Verstappen is in the wall somewhere, and it's going to be somewhere close to that.
Here it is. This will be a replay, and it is coming up to turn 8. There's Fisichella spinning.
But at the bottom of the screen, Murray, I think we just saw Verstappen losing the tail end of the car. So this is Coulthard shaping up one more time at the back of the arrows. He's got to get some kind of supersonic slipstream, because he's carrying more wing than the arrows, and as he pulls out, he will hit a barn door, and still Coulthard cannot get close enough, and there is the end result of Verstappen. I think he locked the rears on the way in to turn 8, and he's made it as far as the wall across the slippery grass.
Obviously okay, making sure his steering wheel was put on again as per regulations. Now let's have a look at this replay as David Coulthard comes up behind the arrows.
I think we're back live on this one, but I've crashed a couple of Tom Walkinshaw's cars like Verstappen just has done, and he's not a pretty sight when you get back to the pits. He seems to be even wider and sterner than normal when you get there, I have to say.
Well, David Coulthard fighting for 7th position at the moment, and he's still 2 places away from a single World Championship point, and to get it, he's got to get past De La Rosa and Pedro Diniz, who is in 6th place, last World Championship point scoring position. Rubens Barrichello, of course, has moved up to 5th position. Good news for Ferrari as a result of Verstappen going out, so he's on a potential 2 points, with Michael Schumacher's 10 making 12. Jacques Villeneuve is in 4th place in the BAR, lapping faster than Frentzen.
Look at this time, Coulthard, if ever closer. Now this must surely be his chance. If he can't do it on this, I wonder how David's ever going to find enough straight line speed. There's just no way through there. Coulthard really now struggling behind that car. We've got some strange lap times going on there. Fastest 2 men on the track last time around, Villeneuve and Barry. Look, and Coulthard makes it through. De La Rosa running wide in 3. Coulthard squeezing through, and that was a key one for David because that Arrows is so fast in a straight line.
Exactly. Pedro de la Rosa, certainly one of the finds of this season. He's had a lot of success in previous categories. Champion in Formula Renault, champion in Formula 3, champion in Formula Nippon, then he was the Jordan test driver. Now he's in the Arrows, making a very good fist of it indeed, hopefully staying with them next year. We are on lap 38 as David Coulthard now has a look at Pedro Deniz's Sauber for 6th position and 1 World Championship point. Jacques Villeneuve exits turn 13, still ahead of Rubens Barrichello in 4th position, Villeneuve, and the fastest man on the track, of course, is David Coulthard, but he's bottled up at the present moment. Can he get past? Well, Villeneuve, and here's Villeneuve, here's Coulthard having a go at Pedro Deniz at the end of the straight. Pedro Deniz shuts the door in his face, which he's perfectly entitled to do at that juncture of the course, and off goes Ralf Schumacher momentarily, 17 points behind the leader in 2nd place.
Yes, 17 seconds behind the leader, and I don't think it would have cost Ralf too much there. I think he just scampered down the grass between 9 and 10. Here we're going to see it. He locks up the inside front, as you can see. I think he then had to do that short straight, just spinning his wheels down the grass as Michael Schumacher sets a new lap record of 1:15.229, and he really is very comfortable up front. It was Ralf in 2nd place who went off the road. Ralf doing a 17.3 on that lap, so actually it cost him about just over a second, not as much as you'd think.
Have you ever seen so many people at a Formula 1 Grand Prix before? The answer is no, because there haven't been as many. Massive crowd. David Coulthard again. Attack, attack, attack. This could be his opportunity into the bank. Turn 13. Right up behind Pedro Deniz's Sauber. He can pull through and get past now. Pedro de la Rosa sees his opportunity. Pedro Deniz shuts the door, having a go.
Now David's gone up the inside. He had to have a second go at the slipstream again, and as long as he doesn't outbrake himself, he has a clear run. Good manoeuvring there for David. He's just got the McLaren just is not fast enough in a straight line, but he's using the others. Isn't it great to see them really being able to follow each other so closely at 200 miles an hour? There must have been, what, a half a metre between them, less than that. And Coulthard having to go for a second helping of toe to get track position. Nicely done. That releases him now towards Barrichello in 5th place.
So now, Mr. Producer, please let us have a look at Jacques Villeneuve and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, because Villeneuve in the BAR, and there, thank you very much, he must have heard me, because he's closed right up on Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Barrichello is right behind him. This is the battle for 4th place. Villeneuve 4th, and what is Ralf Schumacher doing? Into the pits?
It looks like a regular stop, doesn't it? And just coming in for, remember he stopped quite early in the race, so Ralf should be fueling, quite a long fuel stop I'd imagine, should be fueling in now right to the end of the race as he comes in from 2nd place. And look, all that scampering across the grass really does make it look even more of a rally car.
Yeah, and Frenzen's gone up into 2nd place with Villeneuve right behind him. Barrichello next, then Ralf Schumacher has rejoined. David Coulthard in the points, fastest man on the track. 1:15.042. Fight, Ralf, to get your place back.
Bad news there for Ralf Schumacher. As he came out, Deniz and De La Rosa went through, so Ralf was going to come in somewhere around 8th place until the others make their pit stops.
Look at this. This is the battle for 2nd place. Frentzen in the yellow Jordan, Villeneuve in the white BAR, Barrichello 4th in the Ferrari, and spin for spin, and it's Jacques Villeneuve lost his position to Rubens Barrichello, but Louise Goodman down there can tell us what happened to Johnny Herbert.
I can indeed, Murray. What happened is when Johnny came in for his pit stop, he actually locked up and clipped a couple of the mechanics. The mechanics were okay, but unfortunately one of them dropped the wheel gun actually on the front wing, and the front wing got broken. That's why you saw the mechanics changing that front wing, and that's why Johnny's dropped down a bit.
Thanks, Louise. Masterly avoidance by Rubens Barrichello of Villeneuve spinning BAR. Masterly recovery by Villeneuve.
Yes, Villeneuve hooked the grass on the inside as he was getting on the throttle pedals. So nearly, look, the rear wheels so nearly touched. Remember, if you saw our track guide with Jacques earlier this weekend, he hated that turn 10 right from the get-go. As soon as he saw it with us, as he spun there yesterday too, and as soon as he saw that corner with us, as we went around the track, the first time he'd ever seen it when we were doing our track guide, he hated it immediately. And look, it's caught him out again. Coulthard now down in the 1:14s. He is absolutely flying in 5th place.
Well, here is the leader. We haven't seen much of him because he's out there in front by 37.5 seconds. Michael Schumacher pacing himself to the end, but he has still got 32 laps to go. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Barrichello battling for that second position now. Barrichello trying to make it Ferrari first and Ferrari second. Frentzen trying to stop him. Jacques Villeneuve has spun, and the McLaren mechanics are out in the pit lane for David Coulthard in 5th position. 47 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, ahead of Pedro Diniz. Ralf Schumacher is 7th. Remember, he was 2nd for a long time. Eddie Irvine is now 8th, and in comes David Coulthard. James Allen.
Yeah, it's a rough break for David Coulthard. He was going really strongly, but it probably explains his pace. They're going to fuel this car to go through to the finish. He's in a similar situation to Ralf Schumacher, but I have a hunch with Ralf that he was probably on a 2-stop strategy. Started 10th on the grid, and he was trying to make up places. But Coulthard going to lose a lot of places here, 9.6. He'll probably rejoin about 11th place. Bad news for him.
Yeah, well done, James. That's exactly where he's rejoined, because Alesi's gone past him, and Heidfeld, Genet, and Ricardo Zonta.
And this is going to be a good one down into the first corner. Barrichello which Ferrari is that? That's Michael Schumacher, so effectively lapping David Coulthard. Schumacher yet to stop for his fuel. So David goes down a lap. I think we've just seen why Coulthard jumped the start. If you saw him as he raised the revs at the pit stop, the car started to move forward and they were still refueling it. It seems like his clutch is dragging.
Slipping clutch for David Coulthard is our guess. Michael Schumacher, nothing slipping for him at the present moment. Lap 43 ahead of David Coulthard, not just ahead of him, but a full lap ahead of him. And no McLaren in the points again, both the Ferraris in the points. Michael Schumacher is leading, Rubens Barrichello is 3rd, Heinz-Harald Frentzen is 2nd. We're leaving, we'll be back. 45, we're riding with Rubens Barrichello, who is closing in on the yellow Jordan ahead of us, of Heinz-Harald Frentzen in second place. There's only about a second in it. Rubens Barrichello has well and truly got the message. He's lapping 0.6 of a second faster than Frentzen. He's lapping about 0.4 of a second slower than his teammate, race leader Michael Schumacher. Ferrari leads, Jordan second, Ferrari third, Villeneuve is fourth, Diniz is fifth, Zonta is sixth.
Yes, and Rubens changing something on the steering wheel there. Presumably, you can't change the diff setting while you're going around, so I don't know what he would be changing in there. But surely he's now hooked this car up. He has been lapping even faster than Michael in the sister car, who was off the pace, remember, in the early stages of the race. Seemed to be a sitting target for everybody as Herbert, Villeneuve and co charge past him. But now he's found some grip because he's yet to stop again. I'm sure he will have to come in for fuel one more time, will Rubens, as will Frentzen and Schumacher up there at the front.
What an astounding race this is turning out to be. Remember that Ferrari led the Constructors' Championship right up to Hungary, but then McLaren took over the lead. And now Ferrari are first and third. Are they soon going to be first and second in the United States of America at this marvellous circuit, Indianapolis?
Yes, Jordan needs these points today. They're down in fifth equal in the championship. They finished third last year. They were expecting great things this year, and it hasn't worked out. They've had reliability problems and a bit of bad luck. They have shown some good speed, as is Frentzen today up there in second place, albeit 41 seconds off the lead. But Jordan desperately need these points.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about the weather lately. You can see from the light grey coloured portion of the track that it's dry all the way round in parts. There are of course some damp lines, you can see it there on turn 10, the left-hander. But if you use your head, and they've certainly got plenty of brains in theirs, you can stay on the light and therefore the faster part of the circuit, which Frentzen just failed to do now. And Barrichello is getting into a very strong position to get past the Jordan.
There's a slow car on the start-finish line. Over to the right-hand side, Della Rosa is out of the race on the right. I don't think it'll be a problem. There's that car now. This looks like a video game, doesn't it? Absolutely amazing. And that is a difficult car to move out of the way. A very difficult car to clear off the line, depending on whether they choose to do so or not, or just leave it there, because that has got to travel a few hundred metres to clear it off the racetrack.
Yeah, tough for Arrows after all the complimentary things I've justifiably been saying about them. Both of them out of the race, but we're back in it, and Rubens Barrichello is well and truly on it. Look at this. Heinz Frentzen second, Barrichello third, and they are 3 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, who's actually catching both of them, as Giancarlo Fisichella, Gino Fisichella, as he's called here, is in 17th position entering the pit lane, and his teammate Wurz, as a matter of interest, is 15th. This circuit has not at all suited the Benettons. They have just not been able to get grip. Barrichello can and does, as does Frentzen. Now out of turn 11 into turn 12. This is the flyer, 155 miles an hour. Building. Now let's listen to the revs. Wham! Down into second gear from 7th to 6th to 5th to 4th to 3rd, and Barrichello is now almost on the gearbox of Heinz-Harald Frentzen in second position. But it's a cliche, here it comes. Getting there is one thing, getting past is another.
Yes, all the time. Michael's extending his lead now up front to 43.4 seconds. Coulthard came out of the pits after his stop in 8th, and Irvine in 9th. So Brits still not having much of a day. Johnny Herbert's climbed up a few, up into 14th. They're way down the field now. Michael Schumacher has not made mistakes, has not had problems. Barrichello hacksawing away at the wheel there, trying to stay in touch with Frentzen, and the Ferrari mechanics I can see out of the commentary box window here in the pit lane once again. Now that should, I assume, be for Barrichello, because he stopped for slicks much earlier than Michael. And does Barrichello duck into the pit lane? No, he doesn't. It's Michael that James is expecting in down there. That is surprising. We thought he could go a little bit further than that, because he stopped quite a bit later than anybody else for those slick tyres.
Well, look at this. Frentzen and Barrichello, and just out of shot is Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR in 4th position, and he is catching both of them. The BAR has been getting better and better this season. You heard Adrian Reynard, and into the pits comes Michael Schumacher with a lead of 45 seconds. He should be able to get in, take on fuel, change tyres, get out, still in the lead, James Allen.
Yeah, I think the reason for this is simply safety. He was about to catch up to Zonta and Diniz. Traffic that's moving quite quickly in 6th place, I think it is. So just a bit of caution, really, on Ross Brawn's part. Get him out safely. Looks pretty good at the moment. Of course, he also, 7.7 seconds, also got the wave yellow flag still on the main straight. So just wanted to get him through there nicely. And smart thinking, I think.
Here, immaculate stop, just under 8 seconds, keeps the limiter on to not exceed the speed limit in the pit lane. Rejoins the circuit, still in the lead. We wait for Frentzen and Barrichello to come through. They should now be about 20 seconds behind the lead Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, who is on his 50th lap out of 73. Now there is the Jordan, there's only one of them left in the race. Turning in, and there is Frentzen, followed by Barrichello. So that's the battle for 2nd position, and I think it's just at the moment that Barrichello tries to get past by putting a wheel in the damp bit. He realises he can't get through that way, so he's got to wait, and he's got to wait until that long straight out of turn 12.
Yes, and Villeneuve, look, ever homing in on them. The shot before, Murray, was actually the Minardi of Mazzacani chasing John Alesi for 9th place. And still going well is Mazzacani, but this is the squabble for 2nd. Just 0.3 of a second between them last time over the start-finish line. Looks even closer now. Villeneuve just 1.5 seconds adrift. Ferrari and Jordan in the pit lane, so we're expecting them both in this lap.
Yeah, and it's going to be critical. Can Barrichello make a faster stop than Frentzen? They're going to come in and stop virtually together. Frentzen comes in, Barrichello does not. So now, if the Jordan mechanics can make an absolutely superlative stop and the Ferrari mechanics cannot for Barrichello, it's likely that they'll both do well. It could change the position as Mazzacani comes in, and Villeneuve is right up with Barrichello, who is now in 2nd place.
James, what can you tell us?
Fantastic bluff there by the Ferrari team. They came out, made Jordan react, and they just, as soon as Rubens went straight on, they just came back in again, casual as you like. Meanwhile, the Jordan team have obviously made their stop. Rubens can go a couple of laps longer, put the hammer down, and maybe he'll pass him out on the track anyway.
Here is Rubens in the red Ferrari, behind him in the white BAR, Jacques Villeneuve. Here is Ralf Schumacher in 10th position, battling with John Alesi, and we rejoin, and Louise is with Mika Häkkinen. Louise?
Lost that transmission.
Mika, this is kind of disastrous time for this to happen to you, isn't it?
So, we're staying with Rubens.
Any ideas what actually happened?
I don't know, but I lost the power from the engine. So, you know, we have to ask from the technical people, from the team. They could explain it exactly what happened, but just lost the power from the engine.
How much of a disaster do you think this is in terms of your championship aspirations?
It doesn't help much, does it? But again, this race is not over yet.
Thanks, Mika.
But no, it isn't. No, it isn't over yet. Jacques Villeneuve comes into the pits, but I think Mika Häkkinen was doing all he can do now, which was clutching at straws. There's another 22 laps to go. He can only hope that Michael Schumacher will hit trouble and retire from the race. If he doesn't, it's going to mean that the German will be leading the World Championship by 8 points with 2 races to go. It's by no means insuperable for Mika Häkkinen if that were to be the case, but it's certainly not good news. Meantime, Schumacher, Michael leads on lap 52. Barrichello 2nd, Jacques Villeneuve there, he is in 3rd position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in 4th place ahead of David Coulthard for those 2 World Championship points, which are going to be the only 2 that McLaren get in this race, unless Coulthard can improve his position. He's 12.5 seconds behind Frentzen. Diniz is in 6th place. The Romanians in the top 10. Zonta. So both the BARs are in the top 7. Eddie Irvine is 8th for Jaguar. Alesi is 9th for Prost. And Schumacher, Ralph is 10th for Williams.
Barrichello there lapping the Prost and really having quite a struggle. That's the second time he's been past the pits, and finally he's through. So Barrichello, that was a 1:15.0, though not a bad lap. But he surely is putting fast enough laps in. We know Frenson's now got a fuller tank. Barrichello, I think, should be 3 or 4 seconds further down the road when he makes his stop. Give him a chance to slingshot past Frenson in the Jordan and make it a scarlet 1-2 into the last stages of the race.
Well, we've seen Ferrari sell a magnificent, enormous dummy big enough to put in an elephant's mouth, never mind a baby's, to Jordan and Frenson, as a result of which you're looking at, and off in the background goes Ralf Schumacher again. He's not having at all a happy race now, but Rubens Barrichello is second. It's Ferrari first, Ferrari second, Jordan third, that's Frenson, Villeneuve fourth, Coulthard fifth, and is sixth.
Yes, Ralf, as we suspected, did have a loss of pressure, and Barrichello there across the puddle. He's in just past the 120-kilometre speed limit. It's along, it's 780 metres in total from one end of the speed limit to the other. James.
Guys, it's absolutely hilarious the way they pulled this bluff on Jordan. What's Barrichello, how's he gained? Well, 6 seconds he's made over Frenson in the last 2 laps alone. He should comfortably rejoin in second place. Brilliant pit work, great tactics by the Ferrari team.
Yes, I'm looking down towards turn 13. There is no sign yet of Heinz-Harald Frenson as Rubens Barrichello goes up to what there is. Now, I'm always very cautious about Jordans and Minardis. They're both painting it up, but whichever it is, Rubens Barrichello has joined ahead, and it was a Minardi followed by a Jordan. So Rubens Barrichello has made what we presume to be, unless he has bad luck, his last pit stop. We're on lap 54 out of 73. Ferrari first and second. Louise Goodman has got news from Minardi.
Yeah, Murray, this new pit lane surface seems to be causing a few problems. I mentioned earlier on that Johnny Herbert had locked up and knocked into his mechanics. The same thing has just happened down at Minardi garage when Mazzucani's coming for his refuelling stop. He's not one of the gearbox mechanics, Sandro Perini over. The medics have actually been with him in the pit lane. They've just picked him up and taken him out to the back of the garage and are treating him. He doesn't look to be too badly hurt, so it's obviously going to be something that the drivers are going to have to watch out for when they're coming in to refuel.
Yeah, thank you for that, Louise. Frenson and Villeneuve we're looking at now, fighting for third position. Well, Ferrari's last 1-2 was at Canada this year when Michael Schumacher beat Rubens Barrichello. They look, fingers crossed, as far as the Tifosi worldwide are concerned, as though they are on target for another one. But it's anybody's guess at the present moment whether it's going to be a Jordan or a BAR in third position, as we watch Frenson fighting to retain that place as he comes up behind the Minardi and hopes to get through. It is Marc Genet that he's lapping, and the Spaniard is down in 13th place. Frenson got ahead, Villeneuve did not. It won't be long before the Canadian, who we are with now, has a go at the yellow Minardi ahead of Marc Genet, the voluble Spaniard. And meantime, ahead, Frenson is pulling away because there's nothing that Villeneuve can do to get past on this twisty part of the circuit. It's not until they hit the quick bit, although maybe he'll close right up at Halman Boulevard, and he is going to go through on the inside as they go to turn 8. That was good news for Jacques Villeneuve. Still in 4th position ahead of David Coulthard and Deniz.
Genet having to yield, of course, now he's being lapped, so blue flags waving there for Genet, and lets Villeneuve through. Villeneuve will be ruining that spin he had in turn 10. That certainly lost him his chance in the pit stops to leapfrog Frenson, and it's Barrichello who got that job done. Barrichello now running some 40 seconds behind teammate Michael Schumacher. Isn't this looking good for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship too?
Indeed it is. They're on a potential 16 points. They were 4 points behind McLaren when this race finished. So if they're taking the lead in the Drivers' Championship from Mika Häkkinen with Michael Schumacher, they're taking the lead, or will be if things stay as they are, in the Constructors' Championship by a very sturdy 12 points. Great news for Ferrari, who won the Constructors' Championship, of course, last year. Bad news for McLaren. And things have seesawed this season. We've had a wonderful fight for the Drivers' Championship. Michael Schumacher led it right the way through to Germany, and then Mika Häkkinen took it over with 2 successive victories in Hungary and Belgium. He kept it in Italy, and now it looks as though, but I'm being very cautious because this race has still got some distance to go. We're on lap 57 out of 73. It looks as though Michael Schumacher is going to take it back again with 2 races to go, and that Ferrari are similarly going to go back into the lead, which they lost in Germany in the Constructors' Championship. And it's no less than Michael Schumacher, and in my opinion, Ferrari deserve. Michael left Benetton in 1995, as I've said before, to take up the challenge of bringing Ferrari back to the front after being out for a long time. They last won the Drivers' Championship in 1979 with Jody Scheckter, and Michael Schumacher has finished second for Ferrari 3 times. He lost 1 championship under very contentious circumstances at Jerez, to the man you're looking at now, Jacques Villeneuve, who was then driving for Williams. But with Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne and John Todt, they have reformed Ferrari brilliantly, and it looks as though things may be coming good for them. But like I always say, anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does. We've still got a lot of points. We've got 20 points left over Japan and Malaysia in the Drivers' Championship after this race, and 32 points left in the Constructors' Championship after this race, as Heinz-Harald Frentzen causes our camera there with a bit of spray from his rear wheels to mist up a bit. The film changes, and Jacques Villeneuve sees the Jordan ahead of him as they come through to complete their 57th lap, which of course Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello have already done. And Villeneuve is certainly fighting, is he not? Look at the way he closes on Frentzen.
Yes, he's been a lot faster this last 3 or 4 laps. Great drive here from Villeneuve, notwithstanding that slightly careless spin. But unfortunately, he just got a wheel on the grass and it plucked him round. Coulthard is quicker than the lot of them, but he's 12 seconds behind Villeneuve with 15 laps to go. So Coulthard really has, I don't think he's got enough time to get up there and join that scrap for 3rd place.
Incidentally, apologies to McLaren and David Coulthard. I forgot when I was doing my mental arithmetic just now that David Coulthard is in 5th position, which is a potential 2 World Championship points. So that would close things up a bit between McLaren and Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Diniz there in 6th place, starting to come under pressure from Zonta in the white BAR there, the final World Championship point of the afternoon. At the moment anyway, at least between Diniz and Zonta, and Diniz coming under pressure.
Yeah, and it looks to me like if they stay where they are, the best race that BAR have ever had, because potentially they've got Jacques Villeneuve finishing 4th, potentially they've got Zonta finishing 6th, if he can catch and get past the Sauber that we're looking at of Pedro Diniz. And that would be their first ever finish in a race with both their cars in the points, and Diniz goes into the pits, and Zonta does move up a place into the points, into 6th position. Now, he's stopped twice. Pedro Diniz has already stopped twice, so it is looking good for BAR, as Schumacher, who has lapped everybody up to Zonta, who is 6th, goes through.
Now, the Sauber pit is right outside, and they've only just got the 4th tyres there, 3rd and 4th tyres, so they were not expecting Pedro Diniz in the pits that time around. And it's a long pit stop. Watching him now, you're watching Michael Schumacher. Diniz is away, and that's everybody by surprise. That's his 3rd stop of the afternoon.
Lap 60, 73 lap race. There's Schumacher, 40 seconds ahead of his teammate Rubens Barrichello, who is 5 seconds ahead of Frentzen, who has got Jacques Villeneuve metaphorically attached to his rear wing. David Coulthard in 5th place is closing on Villeneuve's BAR, and Frentzen's Jordan ahead of him. He's lapping about half a second quicker than they are, but as he's some 11 seconds behind them, it's going to be nip and tuck as far as him getting 4th, let alone 3rd place. And in 6th position, as I've just said, Ricardo Zonta. So fingers crossed, BAR enthusiasts, everybody at Pista, where the Brackley where the factory is, and it's very good news indeed for BAR. There is the proof as Jacques Villeneuve is right behind the third place man, Heinz-Harald Frentzen from Mönchengladbach in Germany. We ride with Villeneuve.
Yes, this is Villeneuve's worst part of the circuit, the two hairpins at 9 and 10. Frentzen snaking around there trying to apply his 800 horsepower. Turn 11, there's a nasty wet patch, little puddle on the curb, the exit curb. He tends to throw up a little bit of water and dust onto Villeneuve's visor. The camera can clear itself. Villeneuve's too busy to wipe his visor at the moment as he tries desperately to get in the slipstream of Frentzen. They're doing about 200 miles an hour now, and I think that camera angle's slightly deceptive once again. Villeneuve nowhere near close enough to have a go. There's absolutely nothing between these two. Both on, and that time around it was 0.008 of a second between their two lap times.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this to me is that the Jordan has got the Mugen Honda engine, and Jacques Villeneuve's BAR has got the official Works Honda engine. Next year, Jordan are getting the official Works Honda engine. So Jacques Villeneuve, for political as well as practical and personal reasons, really needs to get ahead of Frentzen's car, which theoretically anyway has got at least a marginally inferior engine in it.
Yes, Ralf Schumacher, who was running such a strong second early in this race, has stopped for the 5th time this afternoon. I think they're having to constantly recharge the pneumatic system, and Ralf really just dropping completely out of contention. He's effectively 15th and last now.
Not a good race for Williams, but they're 14 points ahead of Benetton in the Constructors' Championship in 3rd place. Ralf Schumacher, I can tell you, is out of the car. Of course, Jenson Button retired a long time ago, so it's a double retirement for Williams. Rotten luck, but they've had an absolutely wonderful season, as I said earlier on, much better than they could have expected, and they're not going to lose their 3rd position in the Constructors' Championship. We are going to leave Indianapolis again, but as ever, we'll be back.
Almeno non arrivo. Capito? Ha il senso di fermarsi, quando ti dicono fermarti ti devi fermare.
Still second. This is the battle, and what a battle for 3rd position between the Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the car we are riding with, that of Jacques Villeneuve, the BAR. And as I was saying earlier on, It's very important to Villeneuve for all sorts of reasons, political, practical and personal, that he gets ahead of Frentzen, because Frentzen has got a semi-works Mugen Honda engine and VAR have got a works Honda engine. They will want to beat their Japanese rivals, especially as Jordan has got the works Honda engine next year.
Yes, and Villeneuve there's got a nasty case of understeer developing, and that's holding him up through the complex, through the infield, but still he's able to be that little bit quicker than Frentzen, but he just cannot get enough of a slipstream down the main straight. Here's another opportunity. They do not lift the throttle for over 22 seconds. And he's just sitting there. You just never seem to have enough horsepower, however much you've got. And this time Jacques has got a nice toe. And I'm sure Jacques can be the last of the late breakers if he needs to be. But there's not a lot between the Mugen Honda and the Honda, is there? And he takes a dive up the inside. Yes, and he's going to go wide. That's the problem. He's going to have to take to the grass. There is an escape road there where it cost him a lot of time. And that really, now we'll see how fast Jacques is, see if he can close that gap straight back up again. But the only thing he could do was a big stab up the inside.
Well, he tried, and he was right to try. He's tried before this season and taken somebody off. Here's a replay. Coming up to turn one, they're doing about 210 miles an hour as they close. Villeneuve goes through, runs wide onto the grass, loses traction, does well to keep the car pointing straight and not go up the escape road. And of course now Frentzen has massively increased the gap between himself and the BAR, which is back on the track.
Yeah, tad ambitious that one there, Jacques. I think it came from about 3 car lengths back, and that's the net result. I think he had to have a go, but he was just a little bit too late on the brakes. I think he could have made it, he just braked too late.
Yeah. They all tend to blur together. Where was it that he took Schumacher off, Ralf Schumacher in the Williams?
That was in Canada at the hairpin in Montreal.
Right.
So that gives Frentzen a bit of breathing space, and can Jacques now, they're both lapping pretty quickly anyway, but can Villeneuve clean those tyres up, warm them back up again, and start closing that gap down? Coulthard 9.8 seconds behind Villeneuve last time around. It's going to be significantly less. It's now 5.8 because of the time Villeneuve lost. So Coulthard homing in on the pair of them again.
Lap 66 out of 73, race order top 10. Michael Schumacher leads his Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello by 30 seconds. Frentzen is 8 seconds behind them. Off spins the Prost. John Alesi, 3rd position, Heinz Frentzen, 4th Villeneuve, David Coulthard is 5th, Zonta is 6th, Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar is 7th, Alesi, who has just spun, is out of the race, so up into 8th position goes his teammate Nick Heidfeld, and in 10th position is Pedro Diniz.
Yes, that's the engine seizing up there, and Alesi trying to clear the track, trying not to leave oil on the racing line, the pro that he is, but I think the engine seizes basically and puts him off the road.
Yeah, I missed one of them actually. It's as a result of that move. Alexander Wurz is now in 10th position, pursued by Johnny Herbert, who is in 11th position. Retirements as you watch Michael Schumacher on lap 77 out of 73 in order of retirement. Jarno Trulli, Jordan, Jenson Button, Williams, Mika Salo, Sauber, Mika Hakkinen, McLaren, Jos Verstappen, Arrows, Fisichella, Benetton, De La Rosa, Arrows, Ralf Schumacher, Williams, both the Williams out of the race, both the Arrows out of the race. Last man as ever, but he is running, Gaston Mazzacane, 14th, and he is, in fact, he's out of the race now. 12 left out of the 22 who started, and Michael Schumacher coming through yet again, this time to complete his 66th lap.
Yes, he's the slowest man on the track at the moment by some margin, just stroking it. 29-second lead with those 6 laps remaining, so Michael just on an afternoon cruise. He's done the hard work. He can now coast a little.
Martin, we've got the luxury of the computer which tells us where everybody is, pictures of everybody around the track which are ever changing. But from a spectator's point of view, as Alesi walks in, they're seeing a Schumacher, an enormous gap to Barrichello, a gap to Frentzen, Villeneuve catching him, David Coulthard 5th. What are they going to think of this, do you think?
Well, they've seen a standing start. They saw some good tactics. If they've been able to follow the race and been able to understand what's happening in front of them, I think the crowd have enjoyed it. They just seem to get into it here. The fans here just come along, and they're determined to be entertained and happy, I have to say.
Yeah. when the cars went onto the circuit for the first time today, and this is the big crowd, of course, we had a lot here yesterday for qualifying, but when they went onto the circuit for the final half hour of practice this morning, there was a gigantic eruption of applause from this enormous crowd. There are a massive number of petrol heads here. 60,000 people have come from Canada, and the Canadian there, Jacques Villeneuve, is closing up on Germany's Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's still fighting for that third position.
Yeah, he's 3/4 of a second a lap faster, so demonstrates to you just how much Frentzen has been holding him up. But why should Frentzen yield? Of course, he will not. But Villeneuve's going to have to get in that slipstream once again and somehow try not to break quite so late.
Yeah, as they... Michael Schumacher is on his 69th lap. What I haven't mentioned today, and what you could see if the camera was high enough, is the marvellous Hall of Fame at Indianapolis, this fantastic museum which has great Indy cars from the past, Formula One cars, sports cars, and is magnificently displayed, everything. And there is, including in that, a Stewart from last year, the Jackie Stewart car. And now we're on lap 69. So, and off goes Michael Schumacher.
What on earth is he doing? That's amazing. Michael half asleep. He's got plenty of lead left to get away with that, but Michael obviously just falling asleep a little bit with his cruise and off onto the grass. Absolutely amazing. He had a 26-second lead last time around. That's cost him 4 or 5. Turns into the hairpin look, goes on the grass on the way in, and that's exactly the part that caught out Jacques Villeneuve earlier on. Just dips the right-hand wheel on the grass at the same time as applying the throttle, and Schumi half asleep. That'll wake him up.
How very lucky he was that there was not a high curb there, because if there had been, the Ferrari would have beached. He wouldn't have been able to get the power through the back wheels, especially on the grass there. But it looks as though, luckily for him, he's got away with it, literally got away with it, on lap 70, with 3 more to go at the end of this. Well, there's a Ferrari in second place, don't forget. They are still on target for a maximum of 16 World Championship points, the first time they would have done that since the Canadian Grand Prix, which was race 8, and this is race 15 with 2 to go. And McLaren currently leading the Constructors' Championship, because this race is far from over, are only on a potential 2 World Championship points for David Coulthard in that 5th position. The BARs of Zonta and Villeneuve are still both in the points to make history for the team if they can stay where they are. Frentzen there, right hand of the cars, 3rd position. Now, behind Zonta in the BAR 6th position is Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar. He's lapping marginally quicker, but he's 22 seconds behind Zonta, so I don't think there's any question of catching him. And James Allen, what is the last-minute news from Ferrari?
Well, they're laughing now, Murray, but you can imagine how anxious they were. Giant relief down here. And I went up to a few of them and said, what about that then? And they said, oh, well, that's Michael, you know, he's a genius, but sometimes... Remember Monaco a few years ago, guys, where he was miles ahead in the lead. He went straight on at Saint-Devote and spun it round. He's done it 2 or 3 times. He's done it here today, and hopefully for them, he's got away with it.
Lap 71 for Michael Schumacher, 72 and 73 to come. David Coulthard there, out on his own. The man who won in Britain, the one who won brilliantly at Monaco and the French Grand Prix. 3 victories this year, 3rd in the World Championship. He's going to close the gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen, but since that gap was some 17 points, it's not going to make a lot of difference.
Yeah, I think it was 19. I hate to tell you also, Villeneuve and Zonta finished 4th and 6th in the very first race of the year to give them a BAR, 2 cars in the top 6, but can Villeneuve make it the first podium, I believe it would be, ever for the BAR team?
Yes, indeed, it would be. And they all deserve to do well, the Formula One constructors. They all try massively hard. They all work all-nighters when they have to. They all spend an enormous amount of money, and no, none of them fail to deserve success. BAR have had a particularly torrid introduction to Formula One last year, and they richly deserve that 3rd place, which would be Jacques Villeneuve if he can only get past Heinz-Harald Frentzen. but he hasn't got long to do it, because Michael Schumacher is now on his last lap but one. Each lap 2.6 miles long, so he's got less than 5 miles now as I talk to you. And how Villeneuve is trying. He's throwing caution to the winds. He's going to get right up behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen and then pressure the German right to the last knockings, and he's still on it. Look at him.
Yeah, a bit leery there from Jacques, but it worked out quite well. He managed just to get the nose into the corner somehow as they now head into turn 8. A little short squirt into 9, and this is where Jacques is very fast, even though he spun there earlier on. Or I should say more, Frentzen seems slow through there, and Jacques has got a great chance of getting in the slipstream as Michael Schumacher commences his final tour, Murray.
Michael Schumacher is on lap 73 out of 73 to come home and win, if he can just do this last 2.5 miles, a truly historic race. The first Formula One Grand Prix ever to be held at the fabled Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which has seen so much fantastic action from American drivers, American cars, Brazilian drivers, British drivers, Scottish drivers. Let us not forget that Graham Hill won here and Jackie Stewart won here, but it's going to be a marvellous victory for Michael Schumacher. And remember how he jumps up with joy on the victory podium. Well, we're going to be seeing the biggest leap of all if he just gets through these final few yards left. He tiptoes round to turn 10, goes underneath the banner into turn 11. This is where the really fast part of the circuit begins, and Michael Schumacher can coast home now. This is going to be his 7th win of the year to put him back into the lead of the Drivers' World Championship, and in so doing to take Ferrari there as well in the Constructors' Championship. Yes, victory for Schumacher. Now, the gap between himself and Rubens Barrichello, his teammate, had closed to under 13 seconds on the previous lap. There's Barrichello crossing the line to make it 16 points for Ferrari. First, Ferrari second. Now, who's going to be third?
Frentzen's over the line. No, yes, Frentzen has already gone over the line. Look, he took the 3rd place from Villeneuve, and they ended up just 17 seconds behind Michael Schumacher in the end. They were closing that gap. Remember, Michael on a coast, then had a spin. But what a great race for Ferrari. This was the great unknown of the championship year. Ferrari have taken it. Remember just how good Michael was in Malaysia last year, despite there being a few dramas on technicalities on the car. There's a little bit of unease in the paddock about the extending the pit lane and moving the grid, the pole position slot, and certainly some unhappy people around in the paddock that it seems to always fall in Ferrari's favour. But whatever happened, they went out there and just won the race.
Just look at that picture. The Ferrarista are here in massive numbers with their flags. This could almost be Monza if it wasn't a double tier. We're going. Join us again soon to see the closing ceremonies.
It's welcome arrives at the inaugural United States Grand Prix at Indianapolis. It's Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Michael, an absolute dream result for you. After the emotion 2 weeks ago at Monza, how is it to win in front of the biggest ever Formula One crowd?
Oh, it's something really, really nice. It's the first time we've been here, and I guess nobody of us expected to have such a great welcome from the American fans, although it's probably not only American because they came here from all over the world. But seeing so many people here celebrating with us this victory, 1-2 for Ferrari, it's, yeah, the best.
You looked to run pretty much a perfect race, apart from about 5 laps from the end where you had a spin. Had you gone to sleep?
Yeah, it looked like. Honestly, I mean, I wasn't concentrated anymore because I was just cruising. I mean, I had so big gap that the team asked me all the time to go slower and slower, and I did, and I just caught a bit of grass, which was a bit damp still, and it spun me around. And these things do happen if you not concentrate properly. Yeah. And afterwards, Ross mentioned to me I should keep my concentration. I said, "Don't worry, I'm awake now." So.
Going back to the first few laps of the race, you had a superb battle with David Coulthard, resulting in an excellent overtaking pass into the first corner. But did you know at that point that he was going to get a stop-go penalty for jumping the start?
We were aware that he might get one, but still, I mean, he was slowing me down enough to make Häkkinen give a go at me. That was his purpose. Obviously, the two are teammates, and that's perfectly legal to do this. On the overtaking side, I think he, although he's not really in the championship, he really tried a little bit too much, in my view, push me wide and actually touch me. He probably will go back to Magnico and say that's simply like that. But on the other side, he's not really in the championship, and he was, in my view, doing something for his team and for his teammate, which I'm not sure whether that should be done or not. Anyway, we won it. We overtook the guys. We beat the guys fair and square, and that's all it counts. We're up there with 8 points to go for the last 2 races, and have another 1-2 finish for Ferrari. That's simply great.
Michael, thanks a lot, many congratulations.
Thank you.
Rubens, well done for second place, but I think perhaps early in the race you wouldn't have thought this would happen. Do you think you came in too early for those dry tyres at the start?
Yeah, definitely. This morning Michael had tried the slick tyre, and he said it was a bit too difficult to drive. But basically I was having far too much oversteer on the car, on the wets, and I called for slicks. I thought it was the right time. I mean, the team decided that I should put a lot of fuel on the car, and I had quite a difficult period in that time, because it was quite difficult to maintain the car on the race track, and so as soon as I saw that I probably came in a little bit too early, I had to concentrate to keep the car on the track, and I knew I was going to go long, so then I would have my chance later on.
Your chance came when you got past Heinz-Harald when he had his pit stop. After that, the car looked perfect, was it?
Well, the car was really good. The setup was really nice. I think the only downside of the race was that I stopped maybe 4 or 5 laps too early, because even though I was struggling with the wet tires, I probably was at least 2 seconds faster on the wets than on the dry. So that was the only downside, because the rest was the car had a bit too much wing, so it was difficult to overtake, but it was quick, so I knew when Frentzen came into the pits that I had my chance, so I had to drive it fast.
Thank you, Rubens. Heinz-Harald, this race is 73 laps long, and you must have been fighting with someone for every single one of those laps. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, first of all, there was not a lot of time to enjoy it. I had to go flat out. At the end, Jacques Villeneuve was coming up close, and also he tried to overtake me down to the first corner once. Luckily, he didn't make it, but I had really a hard race today. I was fighting for every tenth today, and I had my car set up for being quick on the straight, but I was struggling a little bit in the infield, so all the competitors behind me were catching up in the infield, I could manage to be in front of them on the straight, but like Jack at the end came close enough in the toe, so he got the chance. But anyway, I mean, it has been for us today a great result. We were struggling this year a little bit with our car on reliability respect, and we had many chances to finish on the podiums, but for obvious some reasons we didn't make it, and I'm glad we make it here today. And I feel very happy for the team that we went through a difficult period of time this year, and I think this gives us another big boost and motivation and for higher expectations.
Heinz-Harald, thank you. Michael, coming back to you, you're now 8 points ahead. There's 2 races to go. This season has swung both ways. Do you think this is the decisive swing in your favour?
Naturally, from my point of view, I hope so. But on the other side, I know 8 points mathematically, still everything is open, even though we now in a good advantage. But I start believe about the championship once it is finished and not before, because you have seen what has happened early this year, and you never know what will happen in the last 2 races. So we will be highly concentrated, working very hard for these last 2 races, and hopefully use our opportunities.
Thank you, gentlemen, for a superb Grand Prix. And now word from each of you in your own languages, please. Start with Michael.
Ja, ist natürlich nach Monza wieder ein perfektes Wochenende. Eigentlich noch ein bisschen perfekter, weil Rubens neben mir auf dem Podium ist, den 2. Platz belegen konnte, was fürs Team natürlich sehr viel bedeutet. Konstrukteursmeisterschaft sehr wichtig ist. Insofern können wir natürlich rundum zufrieden sein. Ein großes Dankeschön ans Team, die sich in den letzten Monaten mächtig ins Zeug gelegt haben und das, was vielleicht für manche schon wieder verloren aussah, wieder rumgedreht haben und ins Positive umgewandelt haben. Da gehört einiges dazu. Das hat Ferrari in der Vergangenheit oft bewiesen. Das haben wir wieder bewiesen, dass wir eben nie aufgeben. Und jetzt ist natürlich wichtig, dass die Konzentration auf dem höchsten Level bleibt, dass wir die letzten beiden Rennen so weiter beenden, wie wir das bis jetzt getan haben. Dann sollte es hoffentlich endlich mal klappen. Ich glaube, Ferrari hat es verdient. Ich wünsche es mir natürlich von Herzen. Insofern drückt uns die Daumen. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Michael. And Rubens.
Obviamente eu estou muito contente. Eu acho que foi uma corrida excelente. Os americanos trouxeram para nós um grande evento onde nós realmente tivemos muitas ultrapassagens, muitas carros tendo chance de disputar uma boa posição. O começo da prova foi muito difícil para mim porque eu decidi o pneu slick e talvez tenha sido um pouco cedo demais. Mas eu sabia que meu carro ia se comportar muito bem a partir do momento que eu passasse aquele período molhado, e aí foi o que aconteceu. O carro veio bem, tive alguma sorte durante a prova, mas eu acho que esse 1-2 da Ferrari com o Michael e comigo vencendo é fantástico.
Hey Rubens. Finally, Heinz-Harald.
Ja, mir fehlen ehrlich gesagt die Worte. Ich bin erstmal überglücklich für das Team und für mich auch, dass wir hier Punkte geholt haben und endlich mal wieder auf dem Podium stehen und nach langem endlich mal wieder ein paar Punkte verdient haben. Ich muss sagen, es war ein hartes Jahr dieses Jahr und es ist schön, wieder mal vorne mit dabei zu sein, und mir fehlen eigentlich dann noch die Worte dazu. Ich hätte natürlich noch einiges mehr zu sagen, aber ich freue mich einfach darüber. Danke.
Gentlemen, thank you very much and very well done. Thanks a lot.
That's our team. Schumacher will make that. How long are you in York? Until this week. Yes, but I think I'll bring some. Let's go. We have 2 helicopters. All right, all right. Bye, Mark. Bye-bye.
So then Michael Schumacher has won the American Grand Prix here at Indianapolis. Let's just have a look at how things stand in the Drivers' Championship after that. Just a couple to go, and Michael Schumacher moves 8 points clear of Mika Häkkinen. 2 to go, very much a two-horse race, and Michael Schumacher, is he going to be world champion at the end of it? Looks a bit like it to me. Now then, Tony Jardine, let's have a look at 1 or 2 key moments of this race, and it lost a bit of the drama when Häkkinen blew out.
I mean, it's been a fabulous event all around, but we were deprived of a brilliant contest here. And Häkkinen appeared to lose power, and then flames coming out of the back of the car. Unusual sight that for the bulletproof McLarens. A great shame for Mercedes, a great shame for McLaren in the championship fight, especially the fight back that Mika Häkkinen has put in this season. Look at that smoke pouring out of the old funnel there, which gets the hot air away from the radiators in front of that rear wheel. Disconsolate Mika Häkkinen, but I think that the mood that he's in this year, he's going to fight back. There's 2 races, all to play for, 20 points
Absolutely.
on the board. They've got to, and they will do. They're old campaigners, McLaren.
First time in a dozen races that has happened to a McLaren. We spoke to Häkkinen, he said, well, anything can still happen in this race, and right at the end, it almost did from his point of view.
Yeah, almost, and they would have all been watching the monitors, waiting for any little blip, any sign of smoke from the engines, and then, as Schumacher has done in the past, he did it, remember, in '98 in Argentina, he was heading for his win, he ran wide and went over some little rolls. It's amazing, but you see, Schumacher is not good when he's at the front, especially when he's got to drop the pace. If he's hunting somebody, if he's on a big charge between pit stops, he's dynamic, he's glorious, he's wonderful. When he loses that touch of concentration, you've got to keep a slow pace. Any top racing driver, that's the danger time. And there it was, a little slip could have cost him, you know, the lead, getting back the lead in the World Championship, which he's done so beautifully.
They are used to rolling starts in this part of the world, aren't they? But David Coulthard did something that he shouldn't have done at the start, although perhaps it was a mechanical problem for him.
It could have been, and we'll have to wait and see what happened. But I think this is a great shame for David Coulthard. He stalled, you remember, in Canada, and they tried to get back on. He got jumped by Häkkinen when he had pole position, you know, at European Grand Prix. Look at this. He went too early, unless his clutch sent him, to be fair to him. He has said recently, I must work on my starts. He used to be in '97 the demon starter in Grand Prix racing. Yeah, he was demon there, but he got the 10-second penalty. Ferrari knew about that because Ross Brawn would have told Michael Schumacher, look at that. And then he tries to, you know, dip the clutch back in to make out as if it hadn't happened. But the dirty deed was already done, clear for everybody to see, and you can't beat those little sensors down into the road as well.
What are your overall feelings, Tony? Do you think the American public will say, hey, I want some more of that, let's go and get our tickets for this again next year?
I feel quite sure about that because, OK, we haven't spoken to everybody, but the mood in the place, the people that you see going around, like, oh, did you hear the noise of those engines? God, you know, it was wonderful. So we'll build up a great cult following. And this is great for Indianapolis area, people coming in from all over the world, from Canada, they're pouring in here. So it will already build up a great reputation in year 1.
And I guess if they've heard of one driver, they've heard of Michael Schumacher, so perhaps the right result from that point of view as well.
Certainly, and Ferrari, of course, the fervour of Ferrari goes worldwide. Now, they have seen a Ferrari here in 1952, Alberto Ascari was here. Maybe there's some old enough to remember.
OK, you do anyway, Tony, that's for sure. Let me just point you towards the upcoming coverage for you. Of course, you can see the whole race on ITV tonight, 10:45. Highlights pretty early in the morning at 3:35. Both of those on ITV. That highlight show repeated here on ITV2, 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Maximum 16 points here puts them 10 points clear of McLaren. Williams still third, and Jordan and BAR level on 5th place on 17 points. And these are the career wins as well. Alain Prost, top of that pile. Michael Schumacher up with 42 career wins, 1 ahead of Ayrton Senna. OK, let's hear from the top 3 in the press conference, shall we? Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Rubens Barrichello, and the main man, Michael Schumacher. Jordan needed those points. We will be right back with a terrific competition and Tony Jardine's views on the American Grand Prix. You're back with us at Indianapolis, where Michael Schumacher has won the American Grand Prix, and McLaren's first breakdown for a dozen races could cost Häkkinen very dear.
It could do, Jim, and it is a rare occurrence, let's say, because they are genuinely such strong cars. And look at that, such a shame. He was leading that championship by 2 points after that brilliant fight back in the second half of the year, and Hakkinen has been mighty. But he said, you know, lost power somehow, and it's easy for one of those engines to let go. You have to remember, it's been stressed on this very long straight, over 24 seconds flat out. There's the result, and a big dent to the championship hopes. A body blow for Mika Hakkinen, where he's trying to go for his 3rd consecutive World Championship. And only Fangio has done that.
Bit of an unscheduled Barbie then for Mika Hakkinen, an unscheduled spin late on for Michael Schumacher when he was going for a Sunday afternoon drive and got a bit dozy, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he loves hunting down his prey. You know, he loves chasing, he loves making up the gaps between the pit stops. He likes being driving on the edge. If you're being told to slow down and slow down, when he's ahead, that's always when he's fragile. He did it in '98, the Argentine Grand Prix, just the same, and he flew off the end of the road. Luckily, you know, he got that clutch in really quick and got it back. Otherwise, it could have been all over for him, and he would still be 2 points behind the championship. As it is, +8.
Just listening to him in the press conference there, Tony, he was none too pleased at David Coulthard holding him back.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but that's part of the game, and I think David Coulthard was playing a very, very good team game here, and it's been team tactics throughout qualifying, giving each other's toes clearly in the race. Coulthard had been up there by virtue of Hakkinen giving him the toe. He had a job to do, and he was doing it very, very well. It was Schumacher that puts the squeeze on there, determined. Look at him turning right across. I think a very, very risky thing to do when you're behind in the championship. Nonetheless, it was fabulous to watch. It was a great manoeuvre by Schumacher.
Probably just about touched there as well, didn't they? What are your overall thoughts about F1's return to the US of A then?
I think it's exceeded the fans' expectations because they've had drama, they've had great overtaking manoeuvres, they've had the spectacle of Formula One, they've had lots of firsts, they've had a standing start, they've seen cars in the rain, they've had a mixture of their own North American razzmatazz. And I can't help feeling that it's a great success. We'll read about it in the American papers, but it's been something where I really think it's going to be a permanent home for USGP on the map.
And as you would expect with a venture like this, a few teething problems for Indianapolis, but overall, you've got to say well done, fellas.
Big tick, big pat on the back for Tony George, all the officials here, and huge cultural differences, really, because the guys who've run their own things at the Speedway for years and years and years, Formula One comes in and says, whoop, this is the way you're doing it.
They don't like that, do they?
No, and you can't blame them to a degree. It's like someone coming into your house and taking over, isn't it?
Okay, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, now, that competition, if you ever watch our F1 coverage and envy the drivers, watch very carefully. Ever wanted to ride an F1 car? Well, now's your chance. We're teaming up with McLaren Mercedes to offer you the thrill of a lifetime, a ride in the back of their two-seater. 2 lucky winners will get a day out at Silverstone and feel the power of a 750 horsepower racing car on one of the fastest tracks of all. And don't worry too much about the chauffeur, we'll provide him too. The car's suitable for most people, but it can reach speeds of up to 200 miles an hour and corner at over 3 Gs, so you'll need to pass a medical and be within the height and weight limits. Also, you need to be 18 or over. And to qualify, you have to answer these 2 very simple questions. When did Mika Hakkinen make his Formula One debut? Was it A, 1991, B, 1992, or C, 1993? A, 91, B, 92, C, 93. Question 2, McLaren hold the record for the most wins in a season, but how many was it? A, 13, B, 14, C, 15. A, 13, B, 14, C, 15. Here's the number to dial, 09065 811 811. 09065 811 811. And don't worry, we'll repeat the questions at the next 2 races in the Far East, and you can find the rules and conditions on these websites. The best of luck to you all. Mika Hakkinen then with a fair bit to do to become world champion for a 3rd successive year. Let me just point you towards our continuing coverage of Formula One here on ITV. Well, a little bit later on this morning, more reaction in our highlight show at 3:35, and of course that programme repeated as always over on ITV2 at 7 o'clock.
David, electric start, a little bit too electric.
Yeah, I was all wound up, ready to go. Unfortunately, the lights didn't change it. you know, you get used to a rhythm of when you expect them to change, because obviously you're trying to anticipate, and it seemed to me that they were a bit longer than normal, but the rules are rules, and, you know, I had to accept the punishment.
It's amazing. First time down here in America for me. First time in Indy, being the man who won the race. It means a lot to me, I have to say. It's simply a great feeling.
And here's the Drivers' Championship then. Michael Schumacher 8 clear of Häkkinen, Coulthard getting a couple of points, and Barrichello moving up into the 50s, and a real double whammy. In the Constructors, Ferrari's 16 points, taking them 10 clear of McLaren. Their first retirement, by the way, since Brazil 12 races ago. Blank. And here's your complete rundown. Michael Schumacher, F1's first Indy winner. Barrichello second, Ferrari's third clean sweep of the year. Frentzen just holding off the charging Villeneuve. Coulthard fifth with the fastest lap. Zonta sixth, both BARs in the points. Irvine the first Jaguar home. Deniz 8th, Heidfeld making the top 10. Wirtz had a good weekend for him. Herbert 11th after that promising start, and Genet the last classified finisher. Alesi's engine blew late on. Mazzacani lasted 60 laps. He was third at one time. Hydraulics finally finished Ralf Schumacher. Fisichella won't treasure his Indy debut. De La Rosa's gearbox failed as Ara's teammate Verstappen spun out. Häkkinen blew out on lap 25. Salo spun before that. Button's race ended early, and Trulli's drive shaft went on lap 12. So, since the race, the bookmakers have done a complete somersault. Now, it is Michael Schumacher, not Mika Häkkinen, who is odds on to win F1 2000. Good night to you all.
There is Mika Häkkinen with his car on fire.
F1 on ITV in association with Texaco.
First of all, Jos Verstappen, are you okay?
I'm fine. I mean, the car was running really good as well in the beginning. I could overtake people. It was fantastic. On that moment, I just braked on the same spot like normal, and I lost the car completely. I had a lot of oversteer on the brakes. When I came to a standstill, I looked to the brake balance bar, and that wasn't in position anymore. For me, it came loose, and I wind himself more to the back, and that's why I lost it.
It's a very sad way to lose a Grand Prix. Better luck to you next time.
Of course, it's very sad to end the race like this. I mean, the car was perfect till that moment, and it's. I think we lost a few points there, but nothing we can change in the moment.
Let's hope for better things next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Race 9 laps now for
more chance after this, Jack. One more chance after this. Probably the biggest lap of the year so far, Jack. Come on, you can do it. Have 9 seconds to Coulthard, so you have enough time to make the same mistake you made last time. Jack, last lap.
Jacques Villeneuve is fourth. Rubens Barrichello maintains that second position.